Hello and welcome to the Sunday show. I once again got sick on the weekend. Can't explain why. It keeps happening on the weekends, but I just woke up. That's why we're a couple minutes late. Like I literally just opened my eyes. I'll fix the thumbnail later. I just wanted to get on relatively on time. How's it going, Dan Brooks? Dr. V, how's it going? Lots to discuss today. I do have to get to a couple of lists I promised to review, but I suspect we have a lot of rule questions. I'm getting a lot of rules questions emails. I'm gonna try to address every one of those emails today. I want to turn. Yeah, that's fine. Morning, tell Darren, Raj. Um, tell Darren. I don't know if you want to rehash it, but your argument about scatter doesn't apply to vortex because scatter specifically says it placed the template. So does the vortex. But we don't have to talk in circles on that one anymore. Let me just pull up a list so I can like get right into that. PTO is going. What program are you using to build yours? I use Old World Builder because it's smooth, it's fast, and it works. My attempts at using other programs have been slow and clunky. I never have rules questions like everyone else. I'm sure that I'm right, Dr. V. That's you and most of the community. And you know what? Sometimes even me. I try, because other people are watching what I play, I do my damnedest to remember to check the rule book. Because I was doing a battle report yesterday. For example, what popped up in my battle report yesterday, I was playing against Josh, we had seen in chat numerous times, we're playing Skaven, and at one point he issues a challenge, and I'm like, I'll just refuse. It's like, well, I'll send your champion to the back. Like, you can't send champions to the back, it's only characters. And then the second I said that, you know what, that's how it's been for like every other edition. Let me just double check that for this edition. And lo and behold, you can send champions back if they refuse a champion this edition. So I try to, every time I go by a rule decision in my head, if I don't remember specifically reading it in this rule book, I try to remember to go look it up just to make sure. But yeah. I played my first old game with Fanatics, and at least my other first time opponents agreed with your interpretation of Skyrim. I know, caveman. There's unfortunately, and this is I feel I'm saddened and frustrated with the people who are playing older editions who can't get past their biases. There is no like that's like I scoured the book trying to disprove my interpretation, and just that's it. Like I'm right until the FAQ comes out, but I don't want to be right. I want to be correct. I don't care about winning the argument right now. Like I'm not even kidding. I don't care about winning the argument. I just want to do it correctly. I don't want somebody new to the game to come watch a battle report and go like, "Well, that's not how the rules are written." Like this guy's just making stuff up. Well, damn. Unfortunately, I'm not 100% rules as written because there is one rule in the game that I play rules as intended, and nobody's ever called me on it. Not once. Not all the battle reports or streams. No one's ever called me on it. But I know it's intended because I talked to the guy who wrote the rule. Do you believe that a character on Skycutter or Stegadon is allowed to fire the big bow with their ballistic skill? I don't. I don't know how to answer that question. The way I would interpret it, and I will never ever tell you this is how you have to play it. Um, I would let the crew fire the bow. Not for I have no rule to argue that, none whatsoever. I would let the crew fire the bow, not a character. And that's how I'm gonna play it until an FAQ comes out. It may be the intent that the character fires the bow. Um, yeah, I don't have. There's a couple of things I've written down that there isn't a clear answer. Do characters become the crew? Oh, if it says that, tell Darren. Then yeah, I would say the character can, even though like the bow is on the stegadon, not the. Yeah, I know. Yeah, if you tell me a page number where character becomes the crew, and I'll take that interpretation for sure. For until FAQ comes out. We're talking about like the Stegadon bow. The Stegadon itself has blitz skill 0, and the equipment is listed on the Stegadon, not the crew. So rules as written, the great bow on the ancient Stegadon can't, or any Stegadon can't even shoot. But it's clearly not the intent. So, Jimmy, a skin character's BS is just, I think it's just 4, just 1 higher. So you're not even gaining much. Like you're paying a lot for the character, right? So you're gaining a couple attacks, and you a little bit of leadership and a better blister skill. So I don't think it's unbalanced to let the character shoot it. But like nowhere does it really say the crew fires these things anyway. So like my interpretation of I allow the character to shoot it if they count as the crew isn't even a valid argument either. Like it's King Chief is 5, so he's 2 better. Yeah, not bad. But like how many points is King Chief? Like 50, 60 points. But yeah, no, that's one of the ones that's on the list of like clearly needs to be FAQ'd. Hello from Hooters, lunch ran longer than expected. Be my fur. I'm gonna do your girlfriend's Bretonian list. I haven't loaded it up yet, but I'm gonna get to it. Can a cannon bounce through woods and hit a unit behind the woods? The rules say that it can't. Can you tell me what Vincent? Tell me what page number to read, and I'll go check that out. My gut would have just said yes, it can, but I never would have thought about looking about. You can't go through woods. Yeah, give me a page number. I'll check it up right now. Rules literally say they become crew, and then the bow isn't given to a specific model. Yeah, just give me the page. Page 45. Yeah, no, Flammable Hero. I thoroughly agree. How's it going, Teapot? Are we talking page 45 for the? What are we looking for? Page 45. Oh, Flammable Hero. I decided to stick with this very clunky, hard to use rule book because there's a lot of new players in the hobby, and I want to use the book that they're used to, not the much better laid out thing that you send me, which is 1,000 times better. You guys hear my printer? You guys can hear the printers in the background, right? Definitely not page 45. Oh, page 205. Okay. A character crew beats your whip skill, blah 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 in combat. Enemy rolls wound. Uh, when a character joins a chair, they join its crew. Yeah, all right. So I would just say, yeah, go ahead and use the character. Use the character to fire your great bow. Go nuts. I'm only a viewer instead of a player, and have always treated rules as a suggestion open to collective agreement. It's only a game. Damn, I actually thoroughly agree with that. Like in every way, shape, and form, I agree with that. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of playing that way. House rules can't like house rules don't go over well in a YouTube video, typically. The FK talked about cannons bouncing through woods, right? Or was it on a hill shooting past woods? Yeah, just let me know where to look. I don't want to spend several minutes in silence looking things up. You guys can tell me like go to the FAQ on page blah, second column or whatever. I'll go to that. If you tell me what rule book page to go to. Oh no, I was applying to the 45 point. Oh, gotcha. Tell Darren, I agree with you on scatter. I never played fantasy before. However, the book doesn't give enough info on how to randomize movement, so defaulting scatter rule seems reasonable. Yeah, see, the thing is, Stephen, I actually believe it does now. Random movement is a scatter because the heading under scatter says you place things, and sometimes a rule will be called to place things and scatter them. Vortex literally uses the word place the template, covers that part of the argument. It tells you to use a scatter die, telling you how to move. So for all intents and purposes, like for rules as written, Vortex is scatter. If you have a question about the virtue and the ideal for the bread, if my knight's leadership unit have the virtue and ideal with the leadership 9, could I use my prophetess listed who has leadership 8? I think the virtue and ideal says you cannot be the general, so you'd have to. That's the Arcane Journal. Forces of Fantasy. It's actually the wrong size. Forces of Fantasy. Beautiful. What page are the virtues on? Oh, Wildflower. Oh, negative part. Virtues. Virtue ideal. A Duke, Baron, or Paladin, only a character with his virtue. Whoa, let's straighten this out. Characters issue +1 modifier to skill initiative and tax. However, this character cannot be the army general or joint from the. Yeah, you just make the paladin your general. Your damsel your general. I think the other argument is you must bring another character with that leadership. No, because you +1 leadership characteristic. No, definitely not. Nah, you're definitely fine. There's no way to argue otherwise. No way to play it otherwise. So yeah, you can put this on your Duke or Baron or Paladin and make your damsel your general. My list isn't the Brett list. Oliver, I can't take those lists. You have to send me the JSON file from Old World Builder so I can load it up faster. Mr. Fatespits, how's it going? Oh, look, I got at least one alt account that old Carmine Stavosky missed in his last great purge. I don't purge. There's like a handful of people I have banned from the channel to the point I know all of their names. That's how few there are. So if you tell me your other alt accounts, I'll tell you if I banned you. Or if somebody else did. If YouTube did or whatever, I don't know. Hey, Steve, I think you misread it. It meant there isn't any rules that say you cannot bounce and hit a unit beyond the woods with a cannon. FAQ page says you cannot target. I'm not fully understanding what you're saying, Vincent. Probably because I misread you. We building high elves today? Why are we building high elves? We can build high elves if you want. I played high elves yesterday. I had a blast. But can you clarify your argument for me, and then I will. I know it's hard. I hate typing. In fact, if you want to jump in the Discord and audibly explain your question to me, that works for me. It's even better if we can do this with voice. I'm not, look guys, I'm not that bright. I play Warhammer for a living. So I am in the Discord as well. If you're not a member of the Discord, you can probably just send me a message. Mountain Miniatures, I think 1794. Let me get in the right spot and prepare for this. Oops. So you just go in the Dark Tide waiting room. If you want to ask me a question, I'll pull you in. Let me know you're there. Anyways, yeah, just mail. There's an email linked in the description of this video, Oliver. Go into the description of the video, copy paste the email, send me the JSON file from Old World Builder. Doesn't terrain stop cannonballs? Cold Duff, it definitely did in the past. I don't know if that's the case in this edition. Sure, welcome to the Mountaineers, bud. Alright, let me get up beat my first list, which I was supposed to do like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I have so many emails about rules. We'll get to those. Why is it a zip file? Oh, never mind. Because you sent me a text document as well. Once I'll do them separately. I get it. Import list and all gas, no brakes is what you call it. Okay. Yeah, I know, family. Yeah. Most of you do a better job of interpreting the questions that aren't necessarily written weirdly. It's just I can't process them properly. You guys are always expecting the question or answering my questions or answering other people's questions because I can't understand them. You guys get it. I just did a full Seaguard theme list. Use a 22 Seaguard, 3 bolt throwers, Sea Helm, Sky Cutter. Man, when the high elves go back on sale, I'm gonna buy 3 more Sky Cutters. I don't like the way mine's assembled. I assembled my rock, the bird, with his wings down, and you can assemble them with the wings up. I'm gonna assemble them all with the wings up because they're actually functional. They won't block other malls on the table, but I'm gonna buy 3 when they come back around. Yeah, but Kildaren, a high elf mage, is just amazing with every lore. I don't think there's a bad lore. In fact, is there a lore you're concerned with, Kildaren? Like, is there any lore you don't like? How's it going, Josh? I think I screwed up one of my upgrades to characters. I go, well, we'll find out. So we got the Green Knight. Cool. It's one of the best Games Workshop models of all time, in my opinion. All right, we got a Duke. We got on this Duke. Virtue Knightly Temper. And on a Hippogriff. You know what's messed up? This list is arguably more powerful on a Royal Pegasus. But Hippogriff is awesome. I don't see anything going back on sale for until 2-3 months after Adepticon. GW has been hoarding. Yep. Well, there'll be some stuff on sale at the end of the month. Alexander, there is there's an email linked, in the description of this video. It's at the very bottom. Just copy and paste that email. It's a mountainminiaturesgaming@gmail.com. It's very easy to misspell, so just copy and paste it. AC was thinking of adding Brett's to my high elves, 1 paladin, 3 Pegasus Knights, some chaff, not decided. Do you think it could work? Well, you need to add some core. If you're bringing allies with Bretonnians as allies, you have to bring a unit of Knights of the Realm on foot or Knights of the Realm on horses. You have to. Yeah, Josh, we did an amazing bat rip yesterday. I was just talking about the issuing a challenge, and I tried to refuse with my champion. I'm like, oh, I have to just double check the rule book. Okay, anyways, this is Duke. Okay, we got Dragon Slaying Sword, just in case, to go after monsters. And then the Gromwell Graham. This is why I like the, in the Dragon meta, like, everybody has a good Dragon argument, but I like the high elves that can take a 2-point, not 2-point, it's a 10, or it's a very cheap magic item that's common. It's the Opal Amulet, I believe. It gives you a 2-up ward save for 1 wound, and if you get hit by a monster slayer or a dragon slaying sword, you have that 2-up ward save in your pocket. But we're not here for that. We're here for Bretonnians at the moment. Hand weapon. Why do we have a hand weapon? Oh, because the dragon slaying sword. Makes sense. Gromwell Great Helm for reroll 1s to save. Yep, this is a solid character. It's going to get a lot of work done. Do you lose a lot if you switch to a... Well, no, with the Dragon Slayer sword, jeez, I would stick with the Hippogriff, because you need the Hippogriff to get work done against other targets. But yeah, no, it's a solid character. The Paladin's gotta be your BSB, I'm assuming. Yeah. Great weapon, heavy armor, shield, Royal Pegasus. Oh, yeah, 2 Gromwell Great Helms! I don't believe they're common. Definitely not. Yeah, we gotta swap one of those out. Virtue Ideal. I think it's the ward save one, right? That's the one I always give mine as well. No, that's not Virtue Ideal. I always give them the Virtue Purity for the ward save. Always have that ward save. Aren't peasants... oh, they might be. Yeah, well, you need men at arms and peasants. Yeah, Bretonnians as allies isn't the easiest thing to ally in. I like the Ogre Blade. The Ogre Blade. I like the Ogre Blade. Problem is with the Ogre Blade, you need to do usually at least 3 wounds to an enemy. And I think the true power of the Dragon Slayer sword isn't that it has Monster Slayer. Well, no, it is. It isn't that you're going to roll the Monster Slayer. It's that you constantly remind your opponent you have Monster Slayer and try to corral their big monsters and make them make bad decisions. Yeah, okay, so you have to adjust your equipment on the... Well, this is easy. I wouldn't even bother with the Virtue of Ideal. This is just my style of play. Give them the virtue of purity. So you always have that ward save. You can't have the Gromo Great Helm, so that's got to go. But can you? You can't have the. What's this one? Not necessary. The Dawnstone's actually not bad. But you need more armor for the Dawnstone to be really good. I don't know. Dude, this is the only thing I've been giving my paladin on Pegasus. His job is to not charge. Excuse me. Cannonballs are stopped by impassable terrain and high linear obstacles. Well, there you go. Can you give me a page number for that just so I can read it and it's in my head? Knights of the Realm, Knights of the Realm, Knights of the Realm, Knights of the Realm. I actually like that. I would do exactly that too. I only have 12. I only have 2 units of 6 painted at the moment. I love. Whoops, keep hitting the mic. I love those Knights of the Realm. Pegasus. Yeah, this is a solid list. This is literally all gas, no brakes. Excellent. Yeah, no, I like it. Just gotta fix your character upgrades. You have a few more points to spend. You can find 50 points to give your paladin. And then you probably still have enough points to give one of your units the Knights of the Realm the War Banner. Whenever you have 25 points left over, just pull the War Banner somewhere. It's a solid banner. Wasn't counting new releases. Oh, fair. Spoon's fair. Steve, illusion is really hard to use on lower level mages. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What school of magic use Slaughtermaster? Usually illusion, actually, Mango. I usually give him illusion. I think Slaughtermaster, he doesn't benefit from the lookout sir most armies benefit from because of the small model count. But I still run him off on his own, and I give him a magic weapon and lore familiar and illusion. There's a couple of really good spells that really mess up your opponent's movement, and then if he's got to go in and butcher an entire unit by himself, he can. I was playing with New Recruit last night and made a list with 3 level 4 wizards, 2 spell weavers, and a treatment ancient. I don't think that list will do well. But it'd be fun to see. I think I changed the Falcon. Oh, Falconhorn? Bring it every time. Yeah, you get the points, bring the Falconhorn. Oh, yeah, actually, you know what? That's a good point. Let's go back to your list for a second. I think I gotta remember to do that. My Paladin, that's my Battle Center Bearer, that's gonna be running around in a Pegasus. I think I'm always gonna have the Falconhorn on him. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you have exactly, here we go, and exactly enough points. Can you not have magic standards on Knights of the Realm? Oh, triple. I'm an idiot. And then a War Banner. Boom. Armied. What's the best lore for Bretonian damsels? I don't know if there's a best lore for the Bretonian damsels, in my opinion. You gotta look at your army composition. I think battle magic is a good default for my damsels. I think in my head they're always going to be battle magic until I finish creating my list and see where my holes are. If I got a lot of peasant bowmen and trebuchets, maybe I don't need battle magic as much. But if I'm all knights, I'm gonna want that battle magic for clearing chaff and stuff. Yeah, it depends on what your army composition looks like. Unfortunately, I think made an all-foot Brett list. That sounds awesome. Yeah, no, Alexander for sure. Nobblers would definitely solve that problem for the butcher, not being able to target the butcher near small units of ogres. But I don't have any painted. But yeah, you're right. Well, everyone should keep that in mind. A lot of my I've said this before, but all my opinions come from my playstyle, and my playstyle is also dictated by the models I have access to. Now, granted, I know I have more models for my collections than most. But yeah, I don't have everything, so I tend to forget about things like Nobblers because mine aren't painted yet. What's your thoughts on the Runesmith or Rune Lord? I like the Seems like a really bad character? No, not at all. Not at all. Why would you think it's a bad character? They're like a mainstay. Wait, they're awesome characters. Oh wait, hold on, Blake. Why do you think they're bad? And then I can kind of address your points. Yeah, yeah, Josh. That's the Duke I've been running. Okay, yeah. Why? How do I say your name? Why? Why? Whatever. Something mini jersey. Drilled needs to be FAQ'd. My interpretation is you cannot charge with drilled, but I cannot argue that to certainty. It's more of like I think the intent for you not to charge, but no side of the argument. If anybody tells you you definitely can charge, they're not being objective. There is no clear answer. It needs to be FAQ'd. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And here's how you. Here's how. Here's a good way of taking it. Everybody I talk to says the exact same thing. We don't know how to handle it, so we're just not going to charge. So everybody, air quotes, everybody. Most people are leaning just don't charge with it. And that's got to tell you something. When the community as a whole leans one way, you kind of know what the intent is, or that's the new community intent. But if they intend for you to be able to charge from drilled, which is an absolute possibility, they have to FAQ it. Well, like most things, the right answer is usually, well, it depends. 100% Flammable Hero. Ben, it's going, it's going. Let's do a email about a rule question. Let's get the rule book because we're gonna need that. And what we got? Where are my emails? Oh, that's right. I literally just talked about that. Candid. Be my fur, you here? Your list is illegal. Hold on, we gotta real quick fix his list. We gotta drop one of these. We have no choice. And 10 peasant bowmen that are skirmishers. Drop the swore banner. Maybe I can find the points to get his knights back in. We gotta find 25 points. 25 points. Where are we getting it? Where are we getting 25 points? We have to have a unit of peasants. We have to. Where's the Force of Fantasy? 1+ humanity or peasant. Okay, so 50 points have to be spent there. I don't want to lose the Falcon Horn. It's actually a really good upgrade. But that's what I would cut. Just for the knights. I'd rather have none of the knights than the Falcon Horn, which isn't always going to be useful. 15 points left over. Let's get him a Luckstone. Boom. Redone. Regassed. Still no breaks. Right. Rules. Yeah, 7 beer, you're right. I wish it did. Says, do you think a full tree spirit list for Wood Elves would work since currently finding the elves is hard? Yes. Yes, I do think it would work, Raj. In fact, I've played that a couple of times. I played against it. Is it going to be the top tier best way to play Wood Elves? No, it won't. Will it be more than playable? Absolutely. But you know what? Maybe it is the best way to play. I shouldn't say no. Maybe it is the best way to play. I had to duck on the Fnatic question from Thursday, but I did send an email this morning. Okay, I'll take a look. How's it going, Uber? Yeah, Candid. The thing is, the theme of this list is just keep on moving, and the peasant bowman, in the skirmish formation would actually work well with this list. So yeah, you can have a unit of men at arms sitting in the corner doing nothing, probably nothing, giving up their points by the end of the game, or you can have this unit of 10 bowmen that are skirmishing that are actually going to help this list play. Skirmish is probably the most misunderstood rule and best rule in the game right now, I think. But rules questions, where are my emails? Let's just start from the top and go backwards. Oh, it's actually the Fnatic one right away. Okay. Oh, more emails coming in. Okay, this is first. Hey, Mountain Miniatures crew, I was on Steve's side of things until I did some digging. Below is my rebuttal. Fanatics can move even if a hit roll is made on the scatter die. Fanatics do not have random movement, correct? So they do not fall under the rules for random movement, correct? Including the mention of using the scatter die. Fanatics have a special rule unique to them called Fanatic Movement. Okay, let's just step by step this to make sure we're all on the same page. So I don't want to misinterpret an argument. So where is my routing words? Fanatic move. During the compulsory move subphase of each turn, which okay, whatever. A Fanatic moves 2d6 in the direction chosen by the controlling player. During each and every compulsory move subphase, a Fanatic moves 2d6 in a random direction. If a Fanatic movement brings in contact, nothing else relevant. Okay. So it moves in a random direction. That goes right back to my original argument, but we'll keep going here. Wait, let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything. If a Fanatic movement brings into contact with okay. Never mind that. Nothing else was there. Okay. Fanatic movement allows the Fanatic to move 2d6 in each compulsory move subphase. It directs you to move 2d6 in a random direction. It does not mention the use of the scatter dice at all. Okay. I'm sorry, Casey, if you here. Casey, are you here? I need to know if you're here. Sorry, I didn't mean to use your name. You're already wrong. It's not. No. The melee part's not the best part, Candid. I have to go, buddy. I have to find time to make that video. There's so many things. It's because in the old world, you the way you have to charge, you have no control over it. Once you declare a charge, there's only one position you can possibly end up in, and skirmish can, when you understand that, can really control your opponent's units. But at least they are clear. Well, they're not clear, but at least there's one way to follow the rules, Brian. uh, because tell Darren there's a die called the scatter die, and there's a rule called scatter, and if you can't make that leap, there's no discussion to be had. Scatter die. The scatter rules tell you when something needs to be scattered. You place a template and blah blah blah. Vortexes tell you to place the template. Like if you can't make that, like the only reason why you can't make that leap in your head is because you've decided in previous editions it worked one way, and you are going to continue to use it that way, even though there's nothing in the rule book that says it still works that way. So that's it. Like it's because in my opinion, Darren, you're arguing backwards. You haven't reset your knowledge on the topic, and then moving forward, you're saying, oh, this is the outcome, and now this is the only possible outcome. So I'm gonna ignore all the steps to get there. That is my opinion. I think you can't get past your preposition biases. That is, I know you disagree with me, but that is my opinion of what your opinion is. Because in simplest terms, there's nowhere in the rulebook that tells you random movement would follow the little arrow. And also, if you just point out that page number, you'll win the conversation, and I am wrong. Sir Server, this is you? Okay, so step one, you're saying, where are we going here? Fanatic allows you to move 2d6 like compulsory. So the rule for Fanatic says during each and every compulsory move phase, the Fanatics moves 2d6 in a random direction. Let's go to the rule book. I already know the page number. And it's page 93. What page am I on? Page 93. Right here, Artillery Day Saturday, it says sometimes the scatter die is used with one or more d6 to determine a random direction and distance. Well, yeah, Film Hero, I have to keep explaining to people why the rule is what it is. unfortunately. Until I make a video about this, then I can say just redirect to a video. Another time the discussion. What did Sweden do? The Swedish GT used the rules. That doesn't make it doesn't so that doesn't make them right. Could somebody at the Swedish GT say, but Mountain Miniatures used the rule differently. He's clearly right. Like, you can't say they're right because it just, if somebody wants to make an argument that Mountain Miniatures does it this way, it doesn't make their argument correct. Yeah, I'm gonna move. Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna move on from this one because I have talked this one to death. If you guys can't understand, if you can't connect it, if you can't get there, that's it. Opinion on rules. Greetings from Chile. I love your content. But they're in the back person Luke are amazing. I was thinking about Linehammer, which I don't support. But if I fall back in good order, but if fallback in good order is a rally, and a rally allows a reform that supposedly admits a change into a line, so it allows a reform. Would the reform allow me to pivot as normal and dictate the direction of combat? If the enemy pursues, could I open them up to a flank charge with a pivot? Yeah, you know what? I hadn't really thought about that, but I guess you could. I'm gonna look at the rules for that in a second. I was thinking about Linehammer, which I don't, but as far as the Fabago is rally, and rally allows a reform, which supposedly emits a change to the line. There's a language barrier here, and I can't read for crap. So that's you're just restating your session. Oh, Dr. V, thank you for gifting the Mountain Miniature membership. I appreciate that. Hey Taylor. Oh, you already thanked him. Okay, let's go check out Fallback in Good Order. I'm assuming this guy is correct. But I've been trying not to manipulate. Is it really manipulation? No, I'm not going to have an opinion until I read it. Combat phase. It's around this section. Dr. V gets another membership. Cat Bond. Thank Dr. V. Loser fallbacks in good order. Okay. These are fallbacks in good order as described on page 134, moving directly away from the winning unit, high strength, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is for like double numbers. So we have to go to page 134. And then rally is described on page 117. Rally fleeing units. Yeah, it looks like. That's the thing I'll say on 100% agree the rulebook does not say how to determine random direction. Your turn to use the rules for scattering is weak at best. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. Flammable Hero. You and Tel Darren are just straight wrong. There is absolutely no reason to not use a scatter rule. It even tells you when a template needs to be placed and scattered. Vortexes get placed. I think the community would like us to move on from this. The intent, you may be right by intent, but unfortunately, you are wrong on the rule. And let's just, we are not going to agree, and we'll just move on so we don't have to keep going in circles here. And tell Darren, you got to stop arguing from other people's opinions, argue from your own. Because, you know what, I'll bring it down even simple for you guys. If you've never played any other edition but this one, you can only use my interpretation or decide that things don't move. Cat Bond, I've done that for years. You are 100% right. Yeah, E-Blaze, that's it. Like they're I Teldarin, I spoke about. I believe Teldarin's young, and so I get where you're coming from. I think you're pretty young too, Flambo Hero, but I'm disappointed in you because you're damn good at the rules, and your blind spot on this one is baffling to me. Flambo Hero is probably the best person I've ever spoken to ever about rules, and I believe you got a blind spot on this one, brother. Take the compliment. Take the compliment. We disagree. It's okay. We really disagree. Yes. Okay. Excellent. Flambo Hero. Beautiful. All right. Damn, Darren. You sound young. Hey, Spoons, you here? Flambo Hero will be able to jump in here, no problem. Okay. I'll wait for him to jump on in. How about them dolphins? You don't express yourself well? That's fair. Just read the rules. I just turned my headphones on now. Sorry, bud. How about Christopher? How about express yourself this way? Show me what page in the rule book tells you move the little arrow on the direct hit for random movement. Steve, if a skirmish charges a lance formation, do they hug the unit up their maximum movement, forming an inverse lance? No, not at all. How's it going, buddy? Oh, 1 second. So cited. So if skirmishers charge the front of a lance formation, the lance gets blunted, and 2 more models come forward, and then probably 5 skirmishers that could get to the front rank would be in the front rank, and the rest have to form up behind. Let me get. I can hear you. How's it going, brother? Right? It's my favorite thing to do. No. You know what? It's different now that we have a conversation. The conversation of me reading a comment and replying is definitely people are done with. But this is now different. We start over, refresh here. This is an actual conversation now. So go ahead and take your time. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yep, I'm there right now, sorry, yep. Yes. Oh, hold on. For some reason, they can't... This is my fuck up. Okay, so they can hear you guys now. Sorry, I had my desktop audio off. So can you back up 1 second? Go back to the scatter.
The part where you're agreeing with Steve, so you can feel good.
Yeah. So we're talking about scatter is in the subsection of templates. Sorry, carry on, Flambo Hero.
Yeah. So scatter is in a subsection of templates. So I agree that, like I said, I already said. Doesn't say anywhere how to determine a random direction like it has in previous editions. So yeah, that was my bias to be like, just use the pointed arrow because that's the most convenient, especially if you've played before. But from your position that if I'm a new player and I see the word scatter die, that I'm going to think on the next page that talks about weapons and war machines and has diagrams for stone throwers and whatnot, I'm not going to assume that's what that means.
Why would you not?
If anything, because as a new player, I think I'd be more inclined to be like, well, I got to use the dice with all the arrows. I'd be more likely to re-roll it if I get a hit.
Okay.
Or use some other method.
Wait, can I sorry, I have to ask this maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Why, when I have a spell that tells me to place a template, and then there's a line about how to do random movement, and then it says use a scatter die, and I go to the section that says templates and scatter, why is it not connecting all for you? The spell specifically says use a template and place a template.
Oh,
Right,
Since I
but
missed-
that's when the very first line in the scatter rule, the scatter subsection under templates,
Yep.
says a rule may be called for sometimes for something to be scattered. The vortex spell does not say it scatters. The word scatter does not appear in the vortex rule. The only rule it says is random direction.
Okay, so if we go back,
So here's
yep.
one thing I want to say. What I was arguing, definitely not 100%. But I think what you're arguing is neither 100%. I think an FAQ would be useful, but I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying you're not right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I actually, I think I can prove I am correct. Rules as written. That being said, I think there's too many pages to flip to get where I'm getting to, and I also agree it needs to be FAQ'd because this is going to be a frequently asked question. But we have a spell. I want to have multiple books open. You know what? So page 95. So we go down to a spell real quick, and I'll walk you through.
You're pulling up a book. So the debate is when determining random movement, whether you re-roll or follow the bold arrow on the hit.
Well, it just says random direction. You could, somebody pointed out using a twister board or spin a bottle.
Yeah, I mean, you could. The game does not dictate. Like, if you want to sit there with even a game of life spinny wheel, you can, as long as the direction is
right.
random.
But the bias that Steve pointed out, yeah, you use the arrow because that's what you've learned from previous editions.
My argument is actually that they intend for vortices not to move sometimes. That's my argument. I think they intend for them not to move sometimes. What is one we can go to? Pillar flare.
Some vortexes don't move. Like column crystal doesn't move.
Yeah, correct. But it doesn't. But it tells you it doesn't, right? So, for example,
he's saying on vortexes that scatter, sometimes they stay put. Is what he's.
Let's go through all these steps. So pillar of fire remains in place. Place. That word right there is helpful for some people who argue with the placement rule. But place a small 3-inch blast template so it's standard hold control of the caster. While it's in play, the template is treated like dangerous terrain. The template moves D6 in a random direction of the caster's choosing. Oh, this is a bad argument. You know what? But not pillar of fire.
Yeah, because it's
that's the one that you pick. No. Because pillar of fire is the one that you pick the direction.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, you know what we'll do? Even easier. I know which.
The one it was Lizardmen, right?
Yeah, I'll go right to Monsoon. I'm gonna go back to page 95 on the rulebook first, so I can flip back and forth real quick. So I got my microphone right in the way of my.
Available in my area. I'd like to have the rule.
Still not available?
Within a 3-hour radius of my town, no one got any.
Send me your address. I'll mail you one.
No, I'm going to Adepticon. I'm picking it up there.
So Steve,
yeah,
just looking at the monsoon rule, I know where you're going with this because you place the template. Now initially it doesn't move, right?
Yep.
Got that, and then subsequently it moves in a random direction. But
yes.
I would go back to saying it doesn't say it scatters, because to me, what you're saying, it would say the template scatters D6 inches. If it said that, no argument.
Yep.
But it doesn't. It says it moves D6 in a random direction.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going because I want to see the either. There's one point in my argument you're missing the break, or you got a blind spot. But I want to make sure that there's nothing in my argument that I'm missing here. Page 93. Okay. Now there's only one section in the book. We're talking about moving randomly. It's right here: artillery and scatter dice. So the subsection under dice, artillery and scatter dice. It's the very last sentence. A scatter dice is used when one or more d6 is used to determine a random direction and distance. I'm going to go back to a spell with Monsoon. The template moves d6 in a random direction during every starter turn subphase. So we know for sure we have to use that die, correct? Are we there?
Oh, that answers it for me. The definition for the dice. Now, with it being under the templates thing, I understand the confusion. But if they're defining the dice, then that settles it.
So
it says yes. I 100% agree. And sometimes you use the scatter dice. It clearly says that. I know I'm putting more emphasis on sometimes just to be combative, but yeah, I 100% agree. And I know how you got here, but I don't think it's a bulletproof argument.
Yeah, I'm going to keep running it down, just go all the way to the end, just for the audience as well. So we have Monsoon. It's a template that gets placed and moves in a random direction. These are all words that we're using in this spell, right? I'm not making any of those words up. It's a template, moves in a random direction, and it gets placed. So back to the rule book. If a thing has to move in a random direction, we use the scatter die.
Yep.
Next section over is templates and how to scatter them. Place the object on the battlefield is instructed. Rule may call for rule may be called for an object to be placed and then scattered. Air quotes scattered. Now, if it said moved in a random direction, you would accept my argument. This is the disconnect.
Sorry, repeat that last part again.
So we're going over to the next page over under templates. A rule may call for an object to be placed and then scattered to do so. So we know that the template is asked to be placed and then move in a random direction. But this says a rule may be a rule may be called for an object to be placed and scattered and then to do so, blah blah blah. So because this says scattered and not move in a random direction, this is the disconnect.
That's where I think the intent is different, because you see how it's got the little ticks for the quotation for scattered. The rule book, if you look in the context of the whole rule book, they use those quotations all over the place when naming a rule.
If I may,
when something, go ahead.
Candid said to look at the WaP signature spell because it uses scatter. Yeah, it actually has the keyword appearance.
I think that's not a vortex. I think that's a direct damage. But...
Yeah, it probably is.
But I'm saying if you're for determining scatter movement, that'd be a good one.
Right, but I mean that. If are we talking about Fistagoric?
I would assume so.
I don't think that supports anybody's argument.
If anything, I mean, I would say that supports mine more than Steve's, but because it does specifically say.
Oh, for WaP magic, sorry, WaP magic.
Yeah, the Fist of Gort signature.
I think if you just scroll back to where they're defining the dice, that as a TO for various games, that answers the debate for me.
So, Candid and Flammable Hero, the question I next have for you, why is a scatter and random direction not the same thing?
One is a rule. Wait, say it again. Why is scatter and random direction the same thing?
Not the same
Scatter
thing.
Is a rule. One is just part of the other. Determining a random direction and scattering includes the part that you think is part of random direction, including the
right.
Because the scatter rule, the scatter rule itself is talking about where to move a template.
Which the vortex is
from where it's originally placed, not in the diagrams on the same.
No. Hold on.
The context of the page. I
was prepared for that one. At no point does it say in the scatter section, place the object on the battlefield. Instructed to place the object on the battlefield as instructed by the rule. Roll a scatter dice to determine the direction of any other dice required for determine the distance in inches. It doesn't say that only when it's immediately placed. It's placed in one phase and moves in another. It doesn't say it has to be immediate.
Okay, but if you look at the vortex, you place it on one turn, and then on your subsequent turn, you then move it.
Yeah.
So it's like you do half of step one, and then you wait a game turn, and then you do the rest.
So then, if scatter is not the same as random movement, where in the rule book does it tell you how to move the template?
I think scatter is random movement, but it happens instantaneously, is what it looks like. You don't wait. It just happens as part of placing the template. Like, if it's randomly moving, you sit it there, and your next turn, like Flip Player said, you move it. But scatter, that's part of aiming. Think of it that way. Like, this is where I want it to go. Let's see where it actually goes.
Yeah, you know what, E-Blois? Let's take it from a different direction. I like that. I've yet to hear an argument from you or Taldarin on how to move these templates in the rule book if you don't use the template. Okay, so first of all, my argument is the spell is a template that tells you to use the scatter die, and then the next page over, we have templates and scatter die, but we're not going to use the rule for templates and scatter, because it's called scatter, not random movement. Because they didn't write random movement, we wrote scatter, so we're not going to use that. So where in the rule book tells you how to do random movement? We're going to work backwards now. So now I'm wrong. I'm actually enjoying the conversation. So I'm going to say I'm wrong. My interpretation is wrong. We're going to ignore this. We can't use this. So now, how do we move them from your point of view?
Okay. So Just backing up slightly, you
Mhm.
said, where does it say how to do random direction? The only thing we have is that one line, like you said. Sometimes the scatter dice is used
Yeah.
with d6 to determine random distance, direction, and distance.
Yeah.
And that actually combines the two. It doesn't even say just determining a random direction, because there could be something else that determines a random direction. I don't know. I can't think of anything in this game that has it. That would you just spin in place for some other effect, like you might with some other spells. But again, previous editions. But again, I agree.
Oh, look, I paused you for 1 second. Nuber, bad argument. The template is an object. Bad argument, Nuber. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Forget where I was going. Where
My bad, my apologies.
I don't have an answer for you. There is no. That was the first thing I said. Besides, Steve, you're absolutely right. I love your channel. Don't change. Before everybody could hear me.
No, okay, Flable here. You know probably better. Well, maybe not. But everybody who's watching this, I love an argument. I love this. So don't get this is what we're here for.
I still, please stay on that 93 page. I don't think we need to be bringing up templates at all or anything like that, because that can always be argued as a subsection. This is the page we need to look at, defining the tools to do the thing.
Yeah, this is the one line about random direction is under the artillery and dice section, which is in the dice section. It's just talking about general principles of the game.
Well, yeah, so it's saying use these if of rule calls to determine a random direction. That's what it's saying.
Right. And then you're making the I say leap, I don't mean it as in it's a stretch, but I'm saying it's not concrete. That you have the word use scatter dice. Oh, well, I'm using scatter dice. Here's another rule that also uses the scatter dice. I will follow it. There's lots of rules that use d6, but that's being very a stupid argument. But you know what I'm saying? Like you've got, I'm using it as an example. Say you've got two things that are used in the game. One is used one way, and one is used a way that's undefined. But you're assuming because you know it's used this other way, that's how it's used. Because indirect fire also uses the scatter dice, I could make almost the same argument. You could use the eye there.
Indirect fire tells you specifically when to do that, though.
Yes, but it also uses the scatter die, and that's kind of what you're making this connection with.
No, I'm saying I'm making no information. I can't use the word. I'm making no using inferences. I'm using just what they're writing and nothing else. And again, so let's just go ahead and go backwards 1 second and change the conversation completely. Like I said, I'm wrong. I now know. I have no idea what happens when I roll a direct hit when I move a template for a vortex in particular. So I rolled a vortex. I rolled a direct hit on the vortex. When I'm going to move it, what do I do?
Well, that's again, I agree. You don't know. There's nothing the rulebook tells you what to do. As a new player, I think the argument that you would look at the next page about templates and showing diagrams and talking about war machines is as much of a leap as to say, oh, I didn't get an arrow, and this says it's got a scatter, or it's got to be.
I'm struggling to see how
if I may.
Yep.
I don't agree with the logic of I didn't get an arrow, because there is a bold mark that is placed intentionally on the die to indicate a direction when you're not getting a direct hit.
Oh yeah,
they would not manufacture that.
It also depends on your artillery dice, but I guess I don't know if that's in the new.
There are some artillery dice. So
Spoons, if they intended for that to be the case under the spell, then they would intend it in all cases, and they wouldn't have had to print that under indirect fire. Ice Wolf, I don't have to go to your page. I already know what you're talking about. The page 225 talks about artillery dice and tells you very specifically when you would use that arrow. So you have to make a leap. So to make that leap, Ice Wolf, you have to have played a previous edition and known that would have worked on other things to pull it backwards. There's no reason at all, if you've only played the old world, to look at a vortex spell and make that connection, Ice Wolf. And again, so I'll go back to I don't. After I've been playing for about a week with the vortices not always moving, I kind of found out it actually makes them more dynamic and actually better for the game. But that's not an argument I'm going to make, because that is subjective. It might be worse for some people. I don't care what the correct answer is. I'm saying that I think there is a clear answer. Well, I guess it's not clear. I think there is an answer in the rule book, and the only people disagreeing with it are people who played previous editions. And it used to be differently. Like, changes happen, and once again, I'm trying to figure out how the template, the templates, sorry, the random movement uses the scatter die, uses the template, and using the rules for the scatter die and templates is a huge leap. I'm trying to figure out how that is called a huge leap.
I've been approaching this
Fanatic
from
is a
purely
template.
moving fanatics. I should add that. I'm purely talking about moving fanatics.
Yeah, Fanatic's not a template.
Okay, so bear with me. Ignore the fanatic for this conversation,
Okay.
and let's talk about only vortices.
Yeah,
In that case, I think it comes down to the wording on the spell.
So hold on, close to this, I disagree. I don't play previous editions. If you never played a previous edition, how did you know to move that little triangle on the direct hit?
That for me was an inference. Like that, just my gut says that.
But there's only one place in the old world rule book that tells you how to use that scatter die, right? Page 95.
Why, if you rolled the word hit, it's like a hit. What does that mean? Like,
well, it says right here, if a hit is
arguing if you're right, but
if a, oh, let me read it so we don't gloss over. If a hit is rolled on the scatter die, the object does not move, leave it in place, and resolve the rest of the rule. If the arrow is rolled, move the object into blah 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 blah.
Yeah, that checks out for me.
But you're saying if you don't look at you had asked, what if you don't look at that? How would you do it? Why would I go look at that if I rolled a hit and I didn't know what it meant? Like, assuming I'm not looking at that, like you said.
Okay, how do we know the hit on the scatter die is called a hit?
I guess it depends on the version. Some are a target, some say hit.
Some do say hit.
Well, the figure on page 95 shows the target. Right, yeah. That's the dice people are buying. So we're buying, so we know that's a hit.
I would say when using templates, using the figure, it won't move. But with a vortex, I wish they had another template mentioning it specific, or another figure mentioned specifically, because it's hard to say whether that template is for artillery or something. You know, like are you rolling to hit, or are you moving something that's already in play? You know, that's where they need an FAQ.
Yeah, again, my point was I don't think what the original point of using the arrow on the hit dice, you know, nothing in the rulebook says that. Said that plenty of times. But for me, your interpretation, it stops the moment you read that first rule where it says a rule may call for an object to be placed and then scattered. Because it doesn't say scatter, it says random direction.
So the template isn't
following your argument.
Yep.
Following your argument, you go back a page, and it says sometimes the scatter dice is used. The scatter dice is an object. It's not a rule.
Yeah.
It's not referring to a rule. It is just a piece of the game you use to play with.
Yeah. So
like similar saying a template follows. Anytime a template is mentioned, all the rules for templates follow.
I'm saying random movement and scatter are synonymous, because the only place for random movement is written under the artillery and scatter dice section on page 93. I'm saying they're the same thing. I'm saying they're not different things. Okay, let me be very clear. That is my argument. That is my only argument. Scatter and random movement are the same thing. That is my only argument, if it simplifies it. It is the same thing as my interpretation.
Can we look up shooting a stone thrower, for example? Can we pull that
Sure.
up in a rule?
What page, real quick, what page do you know offhand, or I'll find it?
Because I don't have the books.
Oh, fair. Weapons of war.
So I want to have all the information.
Yep, that's fair.
My gut guess is scatter refers to shooting something, not moving something.
So
that's my gut guess.
On the rules on page 224 under bombardment, step 1, choose a target, place it. Step 2, scatter.
Yep.
Once the template has been placed, it will scatter. Roll an artillery dice and a scatter dice.
Yes.
Okay.
But it tells you to do a scatter. It will scatter. It's telling you to do that rule.
Agreed.
Which to me is what doesn't work with your argument, because as soon as you read that first rule under scatter on 95, it says a rule may call an object to be scattered. It's not telling it to be scattered. It's telling you to move it around.
No, again, you're missing my argument. I'm saying they're the same thing.
I don't think I am.
No, I'm saying
Like,
I'm saying the random movement might as well say scatter it. So like I'm saying the vortex says moves in a random direction. It could say scatter it. It means the exact same thing. That's what I'm saying.
For me, I'm going to apply magic brain here a bit. I'm going to use the stack, as it were. For scatter, the template doesn't exist yet. Like the object it's interacting with hasn't happened. So you're not moving anything. You're just seeing where it lands. Whereas a vortex exists, it's in play. It's like a model. You have to move it. Whereas the rock in the sky hasn't landed yet. That's being scattered.
Sorry, I got distracted.
I understand what you're saying, Spoons, and I mean that. I don't think that's yeah, okay. I mean, yes, that partially does it, but to me the main part is because it's using the keyword scatter or scattered.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Random. Scatter isn't. I agree that scatter isn't move. That's what I'm getting at.
So then I'll go back to the original question. If scatter and random movement are not the same thing, even though the only place written for rules for random movement are under the scatter die, so if they're not the same thing, how do you move the template? For vortices.
Yeah, I defer to the definition for.
And 1 second, there's a bunch of people in chat who are misinterpreting vortices and magic missiles that scatter. We're talking about vortices.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
We were backtracking to define scatter for a second. There's what we were doing.
Okay, sorry. I got emails popping in, and I can see chat. I'm trying to focus, and it gets a little hard. Yeah. Sorry. Did I miss something about scatter?
No. So you were there for. You responded. I don't know if you heard what was being said, and just or you just said words. But I think scatter is for determining if something's going to hit. But I think for moving a vortex, for random movement, just refer to the definition of the dice because they're telling you, hey, this is what we call this die, and then in the definition they give you a rule of you can use it for this.
Right back, welcome to Mountaineers, my dude. So maybe I'm sure I'm not misunderstanding. So Spoons, how do you move a vortice? That's required to move.
You roll just the scatter die of the D6 and you follow the arrows. And for me, the bold symbol is an arrow. However, since they don't put that on all hit dice or all scatter die, there's some iffiness there. However, I think given it one page down, the template uses the scatter die that has the bold arrow on it. It's my argument that that's the right one.
But also, at the beginning of templates, where it includes scatter, the first sentence references search and weapons, which, again, I know we're getting pedantic, but weapons not being spells.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of defining
how come a spell's not a weapon of a wizard
rule section. I'm focusing just on the page 93 artillery and scattered. I think for things that aren't scattered, that is your answer. It's when you have to determine random direction and distance, use this. Whereas scatter under templates is defining the scatter rule. That's defining a separate rule, not just how to use the dice.
So there's a bunch of you disagreeing in the chat, and I get where you're coming from. I think I want to try to be very clear about this. So instead of inferring what you think the intent is, show me in the rule book where the rules are for scattering a vortice. And that's a problem I think a bunch of you are coming into. I want to be clear. It may be the intent that it always follows little arrow. It may be the intent. Well, I can't argue intent. I didn't write the rule.
Okay. I'm going to say a thing and then I'm out of the argument. I don't have any more words. I don't think you scatter a template. So I don't think the hit symbol matters for the purpose of a vortex. So I don't think you scatter a vortex.
Okay, so
I think that's a separate rule.
So Steve, The only thing I would to your point, like
Wait, 1 second. Tell Darren join the Dark Tide waiting room. And Dr. V, Steve, nowhere does it say to hit moves except in special cases. I'm 95% sure you are right, and Steve, the other arguments are way too much of a stretch. That's what I'm saying. But I'll make my argument one more time. But tell me here what you're saying.
Well, who am I to argue with Dr. V? We're done. We're
He
done
owns
here.
the channel. Like, he determines what's used for it.
I would like to formally apologize, Dr. V, for my trespasses. They were I don't know what I was thinking. Sorry.
You're good. I love it.
Going back slightly. So your what was your question you asked before Spoon spoke? Like, how did you word it? Like, you want to know where in the rule book it says?
Yeah, where in the rule book does it say?
I found out where, like, I got everything looked up on the stream, so I was able to read.
I am so certain you cannot make an argument to for your case without invalidating my arguments. Like, so what I'm going to say is, you're saying I can't use the scatter section to infer to use that arrow, blah blah blah, but the artillery section tells you to use a little arrow. So like that's a hypocritical argument. It's a very hypocritical argument. Okay, but that's not. I'm not saying that's what you're making. Others have made that argument.
Sorry, I was going to say, to answer you, I'm treating this as scatter is a keyword, and that rule that we're looking at right now on the stream pertains only to when it says scatter.
Yes.
I treat random movement as refer to the dice definition.
I accept that. I accept the interpretation.
Where like I said, pretty much the exact same thing Spoon said.
Yep.
Because we're not using the keyword scattered, it's not that rule. But what you're saying is the scatter dice. I don't equate using the scatter dice with the full scattering rule.
I accept that, and I accept your interpretation, and I now concede. I concede.
If it scatters, you're 100% right. Hit stays in place like that. I think we're agreed.
I concede. I'm out. I concede. Now I'm out. I'm wrong. Now you tell me where in the rule book it says when you random move a template, you follow the yellow arrow on the scatter die. I'm wrong. I am wrong. I concede.
Thing I said.
Sorry, what is it?
Literally the first thing I said.
Okay, go. What was it? What was it? One more time. I missed it.
I said there literally does not exist in the rulebook. That was the first thing I said.
Okay, so then how does the template move?
Great, and you're never wrong.
How does the template move then?
I wanted to jump in just to say, like, the rule, you keep saying, like, where in the rules? Well, the rule says, the spell effect says move it in a random direction.
Yep.
Like, literally, that is the rule that you need to follow.
Yep.
And it doesn't, and the rules tend to be very specific with things that may move or might move or may be hit by a template. This doesn't say it might move D6. It literally says move it in a random direction, like move being the operative word here. It has to move.
Candid, I have no idea what you're even trying to say with that. Sorry. Okay, so
what I'm trying to say is you've got two actions.
Yeah.
You've got the action move and you've got the action scatter. Scatter has a lot of implications. Move does not.
Correct.
Unless you're making that assumption, which you're doing by saying,
guys,
use scatter dice.
I'm serious. I've already conceded. I conceded. I lose the argument. I'm not even trying to do like a weird game. I'm wrong. I'm out. My argument doesn't work. Too many people aren't.
How do we play this on the next stream?
So too many people aren't following my argument. So I'm not even trying to be like, I gotcha. I'm out. Like, clearly my argument can't be followed for a bunch of people. So my argument maybe just doesn't work. So I'm out. So I will concede my whole argument. It doesn't work for too many of you. So now we're at square one. How do you move a template? Sorry, a vortex that rolls a direct hit.
Move it in a random direction. You can determine random direction however you want. And keep in mind, at the beginning of this edition, they said that this game is not a beginner's game. This is a veteran war game.
Yep.
And veteran wargamers understand how a scatter die works. It is like part of their narrative from the beginning. So it is, in my opinion, it's common sense how to use a scatter die because we've been using it the same way for 25 years. It's so common sense that the writers didn't even put it into their rule book.
So stop. We were common sense is out because there's a clear line here. If this line wasn't here, like honestly, if this line wasn't here, I would be I would agree with you guys. Is the only way we can handle it. But there's a line right here. The scatter die is used with one or more d6s to determine a random direction and distance. So we now have a line in the rulebook for random direction and distance. So we know we have to use the scatter die to move the vortex. Does anybody disagree with that? Just that. Do we have to use the scatter die?
That's fine. But they assume that you know how to use a
No,
scatter die.
no. They assume is you're inferring with their that's not an argument. We're not even going to go down that route. That is not an argument. So one question for everybody here in chat: the scatter die is used to determine with one or more d6s. To determine a random direction and distance. Do we have to use the scatter die to move vortices? Yes or no? That's all I want a yes or no on. Am I wrong in my interpretation on just that? Am I wrong right here off the hop?
I'm going to be zoned out for a minute while I try and find pages to clarify rules. So
wait, hold on. Can you answer that one though? Because if I'm wrong right here in the first one, then I have nowhere else. Like I'm so super wrong. So do we use the scatter die for random movement on the vortex?
Sometimes is the best that you can get out of the rules. Is literally it says sometimes. So the answer to your question is sometimes.
Why is this? Why is it sometimes?
Because the rule literally says sometimes.
Yes. Sometimes
the scatter die is used, which is interesting because that implies that there are other ways of determining random movement. Because otherwise, it would say always the scatter die is used.
No, I think
sometimes random movement is just roll your distance and go forward, or you control
it. Let me help you with your own argument. I think what that says right there is scatter something else. So the scatter die is used for scatter and sometimes used for random direction of movement. Is that a fair interpretation?
I think that's a fair interpretation.
Okay, so does anybody disagree that the scatter die is not used for vortices random movement? I want to make sure we're not wrong. Like step one, we're all on the same page. Scatter die is used for vortices and random movement, right?
Yeah, I think anybody who's ever played Warhammer before would agree with you. And even with this, even if you were to focus on the word sometimes, which I think in this context is we're just getting really pedantic about the words. Yes, okay. The scatter die.
So step one, and this is actually for me, it's a two-step conversation really. So step one, we know we must use the scatter die. Now we're gonna randomly move our vortex. We roll 2d6 or 1d6, doesn't really matter. We rolled a 4 and a direct hit on the scatter die. What do we do? What's step two? What do we do?
If you think that the direct hit doesn't give you a random direction because you can't look at it and see the random arrow, then you'd have to re-roll it or something to have that die provide you with a random direction. Because the rule says move in a random direction. It does not say follow the rules for scatter. And I know that you think that random movement and scatter are the same, but I argue that they are certainly not.
I no longer believe that. I'm going right down to square one.
Okay. Then you just have to use the tools you have to determine a random direction. And if the hit surface of that die is not sufficient for you to determine a random direction, then you have to use the die again to determine a random direction.
Okay, so we're using the scatter dice, and if we roll a direct hit, what are we doing?
You have to use the tools you have to follow the rules that it says. So if the rules say go in a random direction, and you're using a scatter die, which it tells you to use, and you roll a hit, and your hit, like all the die is doing is telling you what direction.
how do I know when the arrow from a scatter die, how like the rules on page 95 tells us like it tells you how to use the arrow. You kind of like follow the same direction from the unit and move the template over. How do I know I don't use, like some people used to do back in the day, they would draw a line from wherever the arrow was pointing right to a table edge and then scatter the template to that point on the table edge from the center of the unit or from where the template was placed. How do I know I use the one that the figure 95 and 90, so 95.1 and 95.2 use? How do I know how to use the arrows and the direct hit?
That's like asking how do you use a D6 though? Like
no.
What happens if a 6 comes up?
No. Hold on. You've never played Warhammer before. This is your first edition. You know what a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is. Because there's no ambiguity. There's no way you can that's a 5. That clearly means a 3. If you're
asking how do you know how to scatter something, it says that under the rules for scatter, which I think is your point.
Yeah.
It says if a hit is rolled.
No. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to play a game. I'm not making a point. I want to know how we're jumping, not even jumping, how we're using the die. But first of all, Spoons, do you have something?
Okay, so if I may, I've looked had to look up monsoon to get better wording.
Yep.
So the template moves d6 inches in a random direction. My argument for having to use that little arrow to determine the direction is you cannot move 0 inches on a d6. It says you have to move d6 inches, so you have to move at least 1 inch in a random direction.
Okay.
So we're ignoring scatter. You have to move. I don't think vortexes can stay in place if they're worded.
Okay. No,
with the random
I've already accepted that.
Yeah.
It has
So
to.
that's
It has to move. I'm with you. It has to move.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to use the scatter. I'm trying to figure. I know we know we have to use the scatter die, and I'm trying to figure out how to use the scatter die when I move my vortex.
So I've
Well,
seen third-party scatter dice that literally just say hit. They don't have the little circles.
Well, if
So,
you're
like, what
using
happens if
if
Well-
you're using third-party equipment, then
Yeah.
But, like,
you
to
created your own
Steve's point-
problem.
No, to Steve's point though, a hit is rolled and there's no arrow. Let's say there's not even an arrow. It's just the reticle, right?
Yep.
Well, then the tool that you're using is not sufficient to determine a random direction, and you have to use that tool to give you a random direction. So if you can look at that hit surface and there isn't a way for you to determine a random direction, you got to use the die again to determine a random direction.
I'm gonna operate because we're discussing rules under the assumption that you have the dice pictured on page 95.
I agree. That's what I use too, but like I don't feel like it's at all a stretch to say like when the bold little arrow it's a self-defined direction. The rules don't need to tell you that that's a special thing. The reason they say that in the artillery section specifically is because artillery shots scatter. Keyword, air quotes, scatter. And there is an exception to the way they scatter. So it says, okay, use the arrow and go in the direction, because not only do they scatter, they also do this other thing that uses the arrow.
Okay.
That's why the arrow is mentioned in those
So-
sections. It doesn't exclude them from being used just because it wasn't mentioned in another section.
So you're saying you've never played Warhammer Fantasy before. This is your first box. You open this up. You find the spot that you have to use the scatter die for moving the artillery. You go to the scatter section, look at a picture to find out what the die does. You see a little reticle with a direct hit and a little triangle on there, and you're gonna follow that little triangle.
I don't think a new player is going to go to the scatter section for determining how to use that die. Like you keep
Is
saying
it-
that, but I don't
One-
think
one-
that's
one
what
second.
a new player is going to do.
Brian, you have to join the waiting room so I can drag you in.
So so agree with Steve's argument there because I'm following that. If what's to assume that a new player is going to go to the indirect fire section
So
to learn what that little arrow
yeah,
means?
just to simplify one step, because again, I'm trying to like reset my thought process here. So step one, we all agreed that you must use the scatter die. Okay, so
Okay.
no, step two, how do we use the scatter die? How does it work? Can you? I want to
roll
start.
it, and of course you're referring to what happens on a hit.
No. Forget that. I'm literally resetting my thought process. How do I use the scatter die?
You roll it.
Okay, and then what happens when I see the symbols?
That's it. For the arrows, you follow. That is the direction your movement is going in for whatever it is. The
Okay.
debate is on the hit.
What-
What defines the arrow?
What page is that on, Spoons?
It doesn't need to be on a page.
That page.
No.
is
I've
on-
never tell Darren. I've never played
That-
before. I've never
that-
played before. How do I use the scatter die?
That is on page 95, figure 95.2. You see the little arrow there, and it indicates the template moving 5 inches in the direction of that arrow.
Okay, and there's no other spot.
That gives a visual representation of it, so you can define the symbols. No, there's places where it gives wording on how it works. I believe on page 93 it defines all the dice. But if you want a visual representation of what that symbol looks like, how it's facing, that's where you go. I really don't like that. Yeah, the only place they define the arrow on that hit, the direct hit symbol, is indirect fire, which is its own rule. So that, we have to apply the same logic we're applying to the scatter rule
I mean,
of
you
it's
don't
a
even
separate.
you don't
But
even
see,
need to
so-
consider the arrow at all. Like if what you just said on page 95, that little figure that says, okay, the arrow is what determines what direction it is. If a new player rolls the hit, They're like, oh, okay, this is not a like.
I
Let's say in
think
their
you
mind,
missed the beginning of Steve's point of. He asked what the air. You know, I said you roll you roll an arrow, you go in the direction of it. He asked
right?
what he's doing completely new. You missed.
No, I fully get that. So like a fully new player rolls this thing and they get the symbol. They go to that page and they look at the diagram and they say to themselves, okay, this is not an arrow, so this isn't determining a random direction. I need to roll it until it gives me a random direction.
So, your argument would be that we have to use the scatter die. The next page over. Oh, we have to use our scatter die with our template. The next page over tells you how to use the template and scatter die, but you would ignore the section about hit.
I'm
No,
working
I would
on
say-
how
I
I
would
would
say-
process the hit because
I would say no.
it doesn't
Steve.
define it.
And
Oops,
here's so to me, the argument that, or even the idea that, oh, well, you use the arrow because in the indirect fire section where it talks about what happens if you roll that for determining a direction, it talks about it there, so you'd use it here. I understand that argument is very weak, but to me,
Thank you,
the
Stephen.
argument that the using scatter die and the scatter rule are equal is the same thing.
Yeah,
I think it's the same. I can see how you can get there.
I
don't think it's a strong argument.
I think. Oh, I'm gonna make me clear about this. I'm not trying to be, trying to get you walking through a weird gotcha conversation. I've reset my thought process. I am not there. I no longer believe scatter and I'm not trying to be. I know everything I say comes off that way. So I'm just trying to reiterate what I'm trying to take this really slow step by step, so you guys can try to explain it. So either I'm not following or. I know a bunch of you. The audience is going to be very split right now. A bunch of you very much agree with me, a bunch of you don't, and that's okay. And one side's going to be wrong here, and that's okay. So step one, we've determined we must use our template and scatter die for a vortex. The next page over, it says here's how to use the template and scatter die for scatter, but specifically for spells, we're ignoring the part where it says if a hit is rolled on a scatter die, the object does not move. We're specifically ignoring that, and let's just make sure we're there. That's what we're doing, right? We're using all. Hold on. We're using all of the rules for the scatter die, for the way the arrow, what the arrow is, what the direct is, how to use the arrow. We're going to use all of those rules on this page, but we're going to ignore the hit part. And I'm not trying to do a got you. If we say yes, we can move on and next step. So we're using all of the rules for the scatter die and template on page 95 for moving a vortex, except point 2 if a hit is rolled.
I don't think that you referenced page 95 at all with respect to random movement.
Okay, good. Okay, good. We're going to cut back and go back one step. So now I have a random move vortex. It tells me to use a scatter die. How do I use a scatter die? I can't use page 95. How do I use it?
Yeah, you roll it and you look at it. And if you and your opponent can't come to an agreement that the arrow means to go in a direction, like
wait, stop. So we roll it, we look at it. If we get an arrow, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to assume, it means I'm going to go this direction. I'm with you there. Now, I've never played the game before, and I see this weird little reticle thing. Well, that's a weird symbol. That's not an arrow like the other arrows. I mean, it kind of has an arrow, but it's not an arrow like the other arrows. That must mean something differently. I'm going to go look that up. So where in the rulebook do I look that up?
That's where you actually do go to page 95 because that rule is used for scatter, and you can look at the key weapons and spells will have it'll specify to scatter.
So effectively, I want to be clear about this. So effectively, for moving a vortex, we use all the rules on page 95, even though we're not supposed to reference them, but I'm okay with that. We're going to use all the rules on page 95 except for the direct hit. Yes?
Well, I'm saying that the direct hit, if you're wondering what that is, it relates to...
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. You may be right. Maybe you're exactly right. So effectively, we're using all the rules on page 95 except for the direct hit. Is that correct?
I can agree with that, actually. I'm reading it now, and I'm just making sure that I agree with that, but I think I do agree with that. Yes, you're using effectively point 1 and 3.
Okay, so we have rules written out to use the scatter die for the purposes of scatter, but they decided nowhere in the rule book should we write out the rules for using the scatter die for random movement. They have decided to write the rules for, because scatter and random movement are two different things. They have decided that they both use the same die, but in the rule book, we're going to put the rules for using it in this situation, but not this situation. We're in agreement there?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I understand what you're going, and as much as you say you're not going for gotcha, and you're not really, keep in mind that there are plenty of people that would argue that the things that this book does and does not clarify can be a little confusing in other sections.
100%, 100%. That's why we have these conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
What about this other rule? But I think that's probably, I would argue that more likely that's like an oversight where they're working off an assumption.
Well, these definitely have to be FAQ'd. I think
Okay.
we're all in agreement that
Hold on.
they didn't properly define it.
Give me a second. There's a bunch of comments I'm going to go through that are directed at me. So, random movement does not say use a scatter die. It actually very much does. Page 93, it tells you specifically to use a scatter die. So, it tells you, yes, you have to use a scatter die on page 93. You roll it, and if you can't agree on how to resolve the scatter die because it doesn't say to use the most important rule, that's on page 93. So, I think I'm going back to my previous position because every argument I'm reading, Zen, your argument is, it's a silly argument, my dude. It's like, oh, they didn't write the rule for this anywhere in the book, so just figure it out yourself. We're never going to accept that for anything else in this game. Yeah. I think the only reason why you have that. I think the only reason why you have that opinion is because you've decided on a conclusion and you're trying to get there, or. Like, again, so yeah, I think I made that part pretty clear. I think if you're looking at picture on page 95.1, it says under the template does not move. The spell is a template. Rules lawyers rules got nothing on the mountain. I'm just trying to friend of Yoda. I'm just trying to make sure. I don't want to do a disservice to the community and argue a thing that I'm wrong about, but I already know this rule is being played two different ways, and I got to figure out which way I'm going to handle it moving forward on the channel. Mountain Miniatures, the direct hit caused on page 95 applies to scatter, not random movement. Yes, Alex, that's what we're talking about. So we're defining scatter and random movement differently. They both use the scatter die. Rules as written clear as day. We wrote out the rules how to use the scatter die for scatter in the rule book, but we did not write the rules on how to use the scatter die for random movement. That's essentially what you just said. So I'm just reiterating all that to make sure we're on the same page. Now, who wanted to say something? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that the issue, the cognitive dissonance I'm encountering here is treating scatter. We've agreed we have to treat scatter as a separate thing. It seems pretty clear. But the issue I'm encountering is we have to apply that same logic to other things.
Yes.
And the only place where it defines use the bold symbol as an arrow is in direct fire, which is also its own rule.
Yeah.
So, why Mini Jersey? If you disagree, can you write out your tell me what page number I can find the rules to move random movement. You can shut me down completely. And Taylor, do I think fanatics don't move? Yeah, I actually do think fanatics don't move in a direct hit. That's a separate conversation. That one gets too far in the weeds. If we just focus on just one, we can move on to the next one. Yeah, join the Dark Tide waiting room, Nuber. There's going to be a lot of people in the room, so we just try our best not to talk over each other.
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump because I think, again, however you guys were going to play it, whether you change it now or keep doing it, that's fine. We can wait for an FAQ. I just know this was becoming heated. I had Luca messaging me even about it, like after Thursday's stream.
Was he really?
It's so much easier to just talk it out real quick as to why I thought there was an issue.
Yeah, fair. Okay, before you jump, I just want to make sure. I'm gonna walk down this again. So we just real quick. Sorry, I'm gonna repeat myself, but I'm gonna make sure I know exactly where you are. We have to use the templates. We have to use the scatter die. We effectively use all of the rules on page 95, except for the direct hit. Is that your position?
Effectively, yes. In the sense that we're following everything but step 2, like you said. Which even then, it doesn't say if you ignore 2, then you're like, well, what happens then? Like, but yes, effectively yes. But
Yeah.
I would agree that because it's not being called to scatter, technically we're ignoring that rule. But I also agree, nowhere
Yep.
does it say how to do the other.
That's okay to have that opinion. Now, just so I don't make no mistakes, do you think that there is any way to bring in the argument from the artillery die on indirect fire into the vortex? Page 225.
Page 225. Is that the indirect fire?
Yeah.
I mean, not really.
Okay, good.
No, I don't.
I
So-
agree, not really. The only
yeah.
thing that says is that they acknowledge that it exists. That's the only piece of information that really actually gives us.
Okay,
That
so
the game itself acknowledges that thing exists.
So I'm
But you
gonna.
shouldn't use that.
I got one more question before you go, please. And this is, if I am reframing the discussion incorrectly, please don't let me do that. Like, just say no, I don't agree with the way you're saying that. Please point it out. So, we have spells that use a template and a scatter die. We don't have any rules written anywhere in the rule book that tells you how to do it, but we have one on the next page over that is going to use. It's similar in a lot of ways, so we're going to use most of the rules on the page to apply to the moving vortex, but not all of them. That's how we would move forward.
Well, in terms of effectively moving forward and how to play it on the channel, yes, I would agree with that. But
Effectively,
in terms of reframing it, when you were saying like, oh, you're using previous edition bias to say this is how it's done, I would also argue that the same previous edition bias would kind of lead you to where you were at.
Yeah.
Here.
So I think that's fair. That's a very fair argument. My opinion is I don't think a new player would logically make the leap that the arrow on the direct hit would be the random direction you would move in random direction. I think that the only reason why our brains go there, and even I played it that way so long, is because it's how it used to work in previous editions. That's why I actually understood that as well. I think if this is the only thing you're ever reading, you're going to see these rules here. And finally, in effect, if we have a ruling that we have to use this template, this die, where we use all the rules on this page, but not this rule, because it used to be different, is the only real argument I can think of. I think it makes sense to use all the rules that we're using. If we're going to use 99% of a page, why would we not use 100% of the page? Either we can argue that none of it applies or all of it applies, but you can't pick and choose what applies to it in a rule. So I can't this is kind of similar to the drilled rule. Like, to any one side of the argument has to ignore part of the rule somewhere in the book. So I can't see how we could use some of these rules and not all of these rules. So while the intent might be that you follow the little arrow, until that's FAQ'd, I'm going to use all of the rules that apply to the template and the die that gets rolled.
And I think that's fair, so long as when you're making that ruling, you make it clear that this is your interpretation, not this is how it works 100%.
I thoroughly disagree, because
the chat will be just as invited to argue.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to go ahead and say I hit on threes, because that's my interpretation. I'm going to charge now, and I use fast twist try. I'm going to roll 2d6, drop the lowest die, and then add one more die, because that's my interpretation. Like, where's the line drawn?
If I may.
Yes.
Just to be cheeky and rules lawyery in this case. Per the guidelines given to you in the book, vortexes just don't move. Because they don't say scatter, so you can't apply the scatter.
No, I agree. I actually agree.
They actually just stay put.
Either we have to use all the rules of 95, or vortices don't move. And even though I believe you can't clearly argue rules as intent, we can kind of see
that rule
ever, right? So I can kind of see the point here. Like, okay, well, they clearly move, but there's no rules for them to move. Oh, these must be the rules there. So I want to be clear. That's my argument. These must be the rules they intend us to use. That's my argument.
Well, see,
I can follow that. If we're going purely on, they have to tell us.
Yeah.
Or, if we're going, we cannot infer anything, because that could be wrong. So we have to go clear, black and white. If they did define it, it doesn't happen.
And the next
random movement doesn't happen unless it
next
is in a
this
direction
is
of your choosing.
yeah. This is my next argument is not even an argument. This is more of a preference thing. I played a bunch of games where these things aren't moving already. I'm like, oh wow, I actually prefer it. It actually added a lot to the game.
Yeah, it changed. I mean, for fanatics, we have to apply the same rule, and I don't like how it works there. But for vortexes, it definitely makes the movement phase more dynamic. Of suddenly there's a pillar of fire right there.
So if you can interpret, hold on, one second. If you can interpret, it's not that the must move. So the vortex must move. It tells you can't choose to not roll the dice. You have to roll the dice.
Oh, you have to roll the dice, but because
that's why it's must. That's why must is there. And I think rolling a direct hit is the vortex spinning on spot and thus moving. But sorry, who was going to say something?
So, I was going to say, you more than anyone should know that there is nothing about this edition that you can assume is correct with how the writers intended it to work.
Yep.
So they very could well want the possibility that vortexes fanatics could stay in place and change the game that way. It could be fun. I haven't run into it, but that's just how it is. That could be the very well assumption. And I don't like the idea of you saying, well, we'll use essentially 2/3 of what's on this rule rather than the whole thing.
Right.
I want to focus on the word effectively because, effectively, that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Or you could do it because that's how we've done it before. But the only reason we're considering that is because, again, nowhere in the book does it say how to determine random direction.
Yeah.
And you keep accusing us of like previous. Sorry, Flammable Hero. I was saying real quick that if you're accusing all of us of having previous edition bias, to me it seems like the writers of the book have previous edition bias.
They do. But their biases are the correct. Like their interpretation is correct, right? Because they wrote it.
No, Dr. V did.
Well, fair. Fair. No, but we all have biases here, 100%. But our biases don't make us correct. Our biases don't make us wrong either, though, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out what they intend. And, okay, you know what? I've talked about this before, and I'll yeah, whatever. There's a rule that we use on Mountain Miniatures that goes directly against the rules of the game. But nobody's ever called us on it. I'm like, why are you doing it not what the rule book says? Because the writer specifically told me the intent of the rule. I'm like, oh, I disagree with that's not what you wrote, but that's what we have to play. Like, for example, after you rally, rules as written, you can't move anymore because you do a reform, which uses up all your movement. But the intent is you can move, you can't charge, but you may move normally. No one's ever called us on that, and we moved after every rally. I played that one as intended because I know what the intent is.
When I read the rules, that's how I interpreted it in the first time. Not that was intent, but that's how we have been playing it. You rally in your command phase, and then you can move in your movement phase.
Well, it does say do a free reform maneuver. And when you go look at the rules for reform, it says you uses up all your movement, you can't move anymore.
Yeah, that's a whole separate rabbit hole.
Yeah. So when you do a reform, you can't move anymore, and you get a reform and you move. Nowhere else in the game is allowed you to do a reform and a move. Like the time you rally from panicking from whatever, you get to reform and move. But that's their intent, so that's the rule we play.
So your intent is that you can't move after you reform?
Correct. After you do a reform maneuver, you can't move.
Okay, but despite the fact that that's the rule book is worded differently, is your point?
Yeah. The writer himself told me, no, we need for the move. I'm like, okay, that's all I'll play it then. Like, I don't care about being right. I want to do it. Right.
We don't need to even bring that up. That's more nonsense.
Cellular rules for free word. Yeah, exactly.
And a random move, is that all?
Say it again?
Nothing. I said, but what if it's a random direction movement? Is that okay?
You're right.
Rallying?
Well, hey, that's their intent. I know. I'm with you, but I want to be like, I have not changed my position, and I was honestly, I you may not believe me, I wanted to change my position on this. I wanted to be like, okay, I don't want to argue. I'll just play it the way these guys are saying it, and my opinion is haven't made an argument that I can get behind. So I'm going to play rules as how I interpret it as written, because I don't believe and again, like I understand. Honestly, if I were to bet which way it's going to get FAQ'd, I want to be clear. I bet you it'll be FAQ'd where you move the little arrow on the artillery die.
Yeah, I mean, I think rules as written, you're playing it right. Rules as intended, is what we're.
And my position is nobody should ever argue rules as intended unless you wrote the rule, because you know you can't win that argument unless you wrote it.
No, especially outside of locals, that really doesn't fly.
Again, this is I laugh because we keep getting dragged back into this.
I know.
But I would say rules as written. As soon as you hit that first line, it says you're not being called to scatter.
Yeah.
That should be the end of the discussion.
This is
for
my
me.
position
That's
as
how I
well.
read it.
Flammable Hero, I'm with you. I accept that. I'm not even you are right about that. So the next question is, and I'll be right back. I do one more quick thing. The next question is, how then do you move it?
And unfortunately, the section for random movement does not have a clause about random direction, so you have to refer back to scatter for how to do
that. Rule's in the 8th edition book. I assume Steve left. I'm not watching the screen.
He might have. Headphones are off, yeah.
The stream's a little behind voice chat anyway.
Yeah, no,
sorry.
He just took his headphones off on the stream, so he stepped away.
Sorry, Nuber, I missed you. Nuber's got a different argument. All right, Nuber, set me straight.
I'm leaving.
There, I got you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you, brother.
Okay.
Hit me up.
What you got?
For me, like T5, if we don't find anything else, and I agree with you there. I don't know which of you pointed that out, but for me, I'm not looking at the scatter part then, where it's described, but on the two pictures where it's like described as well with the image, right? And the first image says if the scatter dice shows a hit, the blast template does not move, and the vortices and so on are always templates, like blast templates, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing is, without looking at it like a section where it says like scattering or not, it's the picture underneath, which doesn't say scatter at any point. It only says if the scatter dice show a hit, I don't move it and ignore the roll. That's what I do, and I'm like not a really new player, but the last time I played before Old World is 92 with the 4th edition of Fantasy, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, the big issue with those figures is they neglected a cardinal rule of writing or using diagrams, and that's they didn't put in the section the diagram references. They didn't put like a figure whatever.
Like for me, there's nowhere written that these figures only apply to the scatter section. There's a picture with a blast template, and underneath it states the scatter die shows a hit.
I get you. I get you.
So that's why I'm not saying this is only for the scattering part. If you want to do the difference between random move and scattering, because
let me argue against you, even though you're on my side.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to point out points. So the figure shows the template over a unit. We already know no vortex can be placed over a unit, so that situation could never come up. And it is under the template section, but then again, we are using templates. Go ahead, Spoons.
Okay.
If we're going based off purely what it says things are referring to, based on what it sounds like, then those figures, they apply to nothing, because nowhere in the rule book does it reference C figure 95.1, C figure 95. They're just kind of pictures in a book because they didn't put a reference tag anywhere in the book.
Yeah, but
that's just bad rules writing on their part.
But Steve, if I can, your argument is, but then I can find lots of pictures where it's just one situation, and I say okay, this is not what I'm looking at. If we look at falling back in good order while have multiple units, like left and right one, then I say, okay, my position is it's not left and right, but top and left. So this picture is not working for me. So this is just one example of a blast template, and in this way, because it's also used, the template is also used for artillery, it's just one situation.
Yep.
Because
No,
with your argument, I could
that
also
is
say, like in 92, I could also say, if the arrow is down, this picture 95.2 is not working because the arrow on the picture is to the right.
yeah. No,
So for me, it's that.
I'm with you. I agree with you. Like in simple, like I keep saying, I'm trying to reduce my argument to the simplest terms in every way, shape, or form. There's nowhere in the rule book tells you that you would follow the little arrow. There is a section, but you know what? It's just the same old stuff. Everybody's made their case, and Games Workshop will have to FAQ it.
Yeah, I agree that for now, because they did not put a proper random movement section in, if you have to use rules from a page, you have to use the full rules on that page.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying.
I'm in agreement with you now.
I actually
I'm not using any of the rules on 95 though. That's the difference here.
Okay, what rules? You're just making up rules.
Only is the problem there.
That's fair. I'd rather make up rules than not scatter.
Flammable Hero, you're one. I respect very few people in the world, and you're one of them.
I'm gonna hop off Discord, but I'm gonna still be on this stream.
Don't worry, Kelder, and you're one of them too. You get the balls to come on and argue me in person. You got respect for that.
Thanks. Yeah, great. Thanks.
If I may,
Absolutely.
because I've been sitting in here this whole.
I know. I've been waiting for you, Brian.
Well, I had a bunch of arguments, but then I realized there's no answer, so there's no point. You know, It would just keep going around in circles. But I found it. There's a very clear section that explains exactly what to go. If you go to 93, there's the most important rule. It says to roll off.
Go Frenzy yourself.
What is that, like page 1 of the DM's guide? You're in charge.
Hey, look, it says sometimes you disagree and roll a die and move on, you know?
I mean, that rule is very important for this argument on the sole basis that they didn't define so much.
So, Candid, and this is for Darren as well, Candid, so if you're going to play someone who's never played before, and he goes, well, that's not how I think it works, and show me the rule book, you're going to go, I'm just going to use common sense. And the other guy's going to go, well, show me the rule book so I understand this. I'm just going to use common sense. Sorry, the common sense argument isn't an argument in rules discussion. For real, does this question change your mind, the 40 fanatic list? No. So there's a lot of... Wednesday, we'll be playing with a bunch of fanatics. So we'll have this situation pop up lots. And you're going to see fanatics not move, and you're going to see how weird it's going to be because of it. Let's... Actually, Pepsi Man, they have done... Oh. They will be doing stuff with mercenary rules soon that I know nothing about and we'll talk about in the future. Anyways, let's go do... Yeah, we'll see some mercenaries soon, guys. Let's just pull up... Oh my god, there's so many emails. Alexander, this question that you're asking me is something I don't want to cover in this stream because I haven't formed an opinion yet. There's a bunch of things I need to run down. So, Alexander, I don't even want to bring it up right now. I don't know the answer to this one at all yet. Did anybody else have any weird things to argue or figure out rules-wise?
No, I'm in the rules as written camp. If we're gonna apply that, then we have to commit to it. You can't do 50-50. So, which I still think means that which I think means vortex should just move never. Sony fanatics. Anything that moves a random direction just doesn't move.
No, I meant on a different topic altogether. We're done with this one. No Empire games in the immediate future.
So I don't really have a question per se, but just kind of like a topic.
Hit it.
I've been looking at the like detachments and regimental rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've come down on the like they're never worth it side.
Oh.
I was just wondering if you found
Brian, that's exactly where I'm at.
Okay.
They're never worth it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to do it for the character, but you have to take so much extra stuff to just get a cheap character in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't figure out. There's gotta be. I can't figure out any reason to ever want to bring them.
Yeah, the only one that I would like maybe do it on would be Iron Drakes and Iron Breakers, just because Iron Drakes are kind of.
Yeah, no, you would never do that because then you can't have the Troll Hammer Torpedo.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what then only
Yeah.
if I was like didn't have points for a troll hammer torpedo.
I think the fighting rank
But then
rule.
what are you doing with your list?
Yeah. The fighting rank rule, which I kind of dig, kind of kills detachments and regiment. It is useless.
Yeah.
Well, that and the fact that every unit got bigger, every base got bigger. It's too unwieldy to make use.
Okay. Well, not much to discuss then.
I keep trying to put things in my list, using the rules, and I'm cutting this. Like, I even thought for a while I'll bring archers as an attachment to spearmen for Isles, and I like spearmen right now in Isles, but I like archers as well. But I want the archers to be a bigger blob farther away. Like, it's just I can't.
You can do it, but they're not going to be hanging out within 3 inches of each other. So
Exactly.
it doesn't matter at that point. Right? Like, it doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, I think they're just a remnant of older editions, and
I'd say look at City Guard for Dark Elves. Like, how often did you actually bring them as a mixed unit? You brought a unit of spears and a unit of dark shirts. So you don't want to commit anything to having to be locked in this play. Like, mobility's where the skill in the game is, and you're locking up units next to each other for 5 damage.
Yeah. No, and I'm loving this edition. Most of the time, so I have a document of like rules. I'm like, oh, these need to be FAQ'd, and most of the time, if I spend enough time in the rule book, the rule book I like it, but it still suffers from being a Games Workshop rule book. It's just not organized well, and well, I guess 40K has gotten a lot better at it. There's too much. Games Workshop needs to have their rule books read. Like, Heresy suffered from this as well. They need to have the rule books read and proofread and gone over by somebody who understands the game but has had no hand in writing the rules. So when they read something, when you write a rule and you go back and read it,
they don't know how it's intended. They play test.
Yeah, when you write, because I'm learning this more as I'm working with Matthew as he's writing like Ravage Star rules or Dark Potential rules. He'll write a rule down, and I'm like, wait, what does this mean? Like, if in this, he's like, well, oh yeah, I guess I know how that works, but I gotta write that in my head. I gotta write that down in words for you, because like he'll write a rule and be like, he knows how it works. And it's like, well, what about this situation? It's like, well, yeah, it's covered, but it's not really covered. It's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. You need to have somebody to read these rule books that understand the game, but have not had any hand in writing. So there's no bias if I understand what the rule. I know what the intent is. You should have the final proofread should have know nothing about the game before it goes out, because these things, like Heresy, was a mess, and this was significantly better, but.
Yeah, they clearly put some like effort into trying to define everything,
yes,
but they just missed the mark in a few places.
I think they're so afraid of spoilers.
Laid the book out weird.
Down to. They don't play test it because they don't want to send it to a play tester who then leaks all the information.
Do you think a new player with no bias would consider no direction or random direction? You're creating a problem. Yes, Bernard. Yes, because you may not have specifically, but I've had several people have that exact interpretation. And that's where I was like, wait a minute. Why do you have that interpretation? Wait, why do I have a different interpretation? So people are reading it differently. There are new players who are asking me how to handle it. Does it not move? There's a bunch of them just not moving them already. And that's why I'm like, oh, I have a bias. They're reading it this way, and I get how they're reading that way. Oh, their reading makes sense to me. That's how I got here. The only reason why I find these things, I'm not finding them. People are pointing them out to me. So if people are reading, if new players are reading the book and having multiple interpretations, it's got to be FAQ'd. Yep. Gage. I think the AOS 3.0 rule book was good, but they would have their books are small. Because a lot of their rules are written.
3.0 because 4.0 is supposed to come out this summer, right?
Yeah, we're like a couple months away. We're gonna see an announcement at Adepticon.
Yeah, spoiled it. Gotcha.
I'm assuming.
Everyone's assuming. You're protected enough by the public bias on that one.
Yeah, well, we'll see what
I wonder
happens.
if they're gonna apply the 40k rule of units or characters are in units.
I like Taldarin's point there. Nowhere does it say that this game is played on a 2D plane. That's nowhere is
Yeah,
that
Sure.
explained.
Sure.
Yeah, your unit
So-
could be 6 inches underground from that random movement.
You know,
But
it's
see,
like
I do that all the time. I make an extreme argument to make a point, but is it really relevant? Is that point really relevant?
I mean, what it
Is
comes down
there
to-
confusion out there about this? Are people like? There's always gonna be some confusion of things, but
The
are
rule
people
one of
confused about that
people,
one?
they're dumb.
What it comes down to is like GW loves to like use undefined terms to describe stuff in all of their games from time to time.
I think that's
They try
a little,
not to,
I
but
think
they
that's
still-
a little harsh, but
Yeah,
I think simply this just needed one more proofread. I need a
I mean-
proofread, but one more like.
this particular one, yeah, but like
Yeah, to people with
Nowhere is
predisposition bias, it runs fine, but
nowhere does
reading
it
it,
specifically explain how to measure from a unit on a hill. Like you just kind of have to like the base the main rule says to the base, and so you measure to the base. But like now you're like in a third dimension all of a sudden, and it's like they kind of just hope that you can figure that out and move on, right?
Well, so
and that's what it always like kind of boils down to.
40k
right?
plays on a 3-dimensional table, and
Yeah,
they have rules to
that
cover it.
describe that. Yeah.
For the most part, I have never seen. Well, no. Actually, Luke and I have been playing on 3-dimensional tables recently, and we have been just saying like these lips. There's 0 height. Count them as a fence. 0 height.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how we've been playing, and that is clearly a. I guess it's a house rule. No, it is definitely a house rule because other people can play terrain differently. I think most people play that it is. Not passable or very difficult terrain or something like that. The only reason why we make it that house rule is because it's not an optional rule in the book that we're trying to figure out how to use. Sorry, it's not a rule in the book that we're trying to figure out how to use. It's an optional thing that we're throwing on the table to make it look good for the viewer, but not make our life or our job more difficult. So yeah, I guess that proves that I am willing to use house rules per se, but only when it is a thing that is not
legitimately not addressed.
Well, no, that's not what I would think. I was going to say it was not that it's not legitimately addressed. It's that it's not that we have to like. We are choosing to put this terrain on the table to make it look good, but we want it to be functional. We could choose to not put these lips on the table, but it looks better, so we're going to do it. So we don't have to run with it.
Yeah. And that's like that's what I meant, the game rules end and then like the game you're playing begins, and they don't have to like always be like one and the same. And so like that's why GW loves to like kind of leave stuff vague and let you and your opponent decide in the day. Now obviously determining random direction should not have been one of those rules, but it ended up being one, right?
That is literally how they wrote their rules in the past. They actually wrote that in the rule books.
Yeah, exactly. And like while they've stopped writing that down, and they've tried to define everything, the ultimate outcome remains the same, where you and your opponent have to decide what kind of game you want to play every time you go to play a game.
So like 10 years ago when I started this job for Mini Wargaming, the internet it's a thing obviously, but there's not as much Warhammer on the internet 10 years ago. And I started doing Warhammer fantasy battle reports for Mini Wargaming, and I realized that I didn't know any of the rules correctly, like at all. There was a bunch of pockets of groups of people out there playing, thinking they know the rules, and I was one of them, and just doing things wrong. The internet has made our community much smaller and points out when it's easier to point out your biases or your mistakes in the rules. Like anybody that comes into Mini Wargaming or Mountain Miniatures to play a game of Warhammer 40k, there's no ambiguity in the rule. Like we know how to handle everything. It's in the FAQ. It's covered. But 10 years ago, people coming in for Warhammer Fantasy, after I learned how to play the game properly. And it wasn't I learned how to play the game properly. The audience kept pointing out things I was doing wrong over and over again until I kept looking them up like, oh, that's right. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's right. And that's how I learned how to play the game, being constantly told what I was doing wrong. So once I learned how to play Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, people are coming for battle reports, and everybody, 100% of the time, actually, I think Nico was the one that didn't, but that's neither there. Everybody who's ever come in to play Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, didn't know the rules, and most of the time it's like, no, that's not how it works, and we had to delete a bunch of clips, and I'll explain to you how this works, and because we play at home. Like, if I wasn't playing on the internet, I would be doing this random movement thing, just like you guys were saying to use it. I would move the small arrow. I never would have known differently. Somebody else had to point it out to me that it's not in the rule book. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. Like, I wouldn't have known that. We're all playing. The internet has made our community smaller. We're starting to see these things, but fantasy, the community is still small in comparison to the rest of wargaming. So there are people with incorrect opinions that are slower to change their opinions. Whether that is me in this case or somebody else in this case, I'm not trying to point fingers. It could be me, but we're slower to get to a consensus as we are on 40K. Like, nobody can go on Reddit for 40K and say Eldari are crap, garbage, bottom tier. They need to buff them. We have too much data. We know they're the top tier. Chaos Space Marine, same thing. But you can go on Reddit right now and say dragons are useless. They're terrible. I keep losing games, and you can convince other people of that. And like someone else will be like, yeah, I know dragons are useless. I keep losing my game too. Which is not the player base is too small, and opinions, we're not getting to a consensus as fast as I would like. Or sorry, rephrase that.
Online that's not an opinion.
Was that?
You know, I said, you know, you can find online that's not an opinion.
What's that?
Dark Angels are heritage. That's just fact.
Yep. Read a book. You are also in your position.
On the internet.
If you get something wrong in a battle report and it goes on there, someone will play. Yes, no. See, stand up hero. That's why I think this discussion is so important for me. I work so hard. I have an amazing job. Don't feel bad for me. It is amazing. I wouldn't trade for anything else in the world. Love my job, but I spend so much time trying to track these things down, run these things down. I want to do my best to get it right for the community. If I do something wrong, like Josh, you still here? We played a game yesterday. When you come in for a game with me, there's a speech I kind of give you that I've been saying for 10 years over and over again. It doesn't matter how good you are at the rules, you're going to get something wrong. I usually ask them a question related to their army. For example, Josh was playing Skaven. It was like, Skaven, movement value is what? Movement value 5. Skaven had movement value 5 for 30 years. That's what their movement value is. At one point during the game, you're going to go, I'm going to move 4 inches with my Skaven, because that's how far they move. And we both know it's 5, but in the moment we brain fart it, don't think about it. Everybody does that all the time when they play games, but you don't have, 10,000 people watching afterwards pointing out, hey, you did that wrong, hey, you did that wrong, hey, you did that wrong. We all get things wrong. Even rules that we know correctly, we do wrong sometimes. Because you're talking about whatever. That's not, I can't believe they got me, I gotta move now, whatever. Like, things happen, your brain fart. It happens all the time. So I try so hard to get things right, or at least do my best to know the correct answer. So I don't negatively influence the community.
Yeah, that's why it's so fun to rules lawyer you.
I know.
It's a blast.
There used to be a show on Mini Wargaming called Rules You Got Wrong. No exaggeration, we kept the stats. People would comment for fantasy, you got this wrong, you got this wrong, you got this wrong. 4 out of 5 times they were very incorrect. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I was the one writing into it, getting it right every time.
And everybody thinks they're right, and so do I. And I gotta remind myself sometimes I'm wrong. I gotta make sure I don't form an opinion and stick to it. If somebody challenges my opinion, and Josh, you can back me up on this. Every time Josh cocked his head on something, even though I felt I was 100% certain on the rule, I stop. I go to the rule book and double check. Because getting something wrong on stream is not that big a deal. Somebody will catch it, and we'll fix it right then and there. On a handheld, you got to be as perfect as possible. So I stop and check for any. If you slightly question me, even though I think I'm definitely right, I will check the rule book. If any slight hesitation on my interpretation of something, just to make sure.
The number of bat reps I've watched where they'll clearly come back from a cut a turn or two later and go, "Yeah, it turns out I made that charge" or something.
Yeah.
you keep going because you're committed, but they catch it, they comment on it, they acknowledge it.
Clan, I actually don't know the answer to that. There's probably a rule somewhere in the fighting rank. Go look up challenges in the rule book. It probably says you have to be in the fighting rank.
Are they not supposed to like the challenger moves into base with?
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah, you'd have to move the challenger into base contact, so you would displace somebody at bare minimum.
Yeah.
If you can even issue and accept the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's saying like hammerers, the whole unit can, so that would be like
true.
How you would get in that situation. But
True.
and you can't. I was thinking like, then what if you had like a wall of characters? But you can't do that anymore, right? You have to have like a certain number of rank and file in your front rank always. There's like a cap on how many characters can go in there.
Well, yeah, your 3 command must always be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What command has to be in the front rank?
No. I'm thinking about dropping bellowers from my ogres just to make smaller units with characters in the front. Josh, that was actually one. Champions and refusing a challenge. I said this earlier in the video, but if you hadn't heard that part earlier, I had a game yesterday where I was playing Josh. He challenged me with a character, and I'm like, I'll just refuse. He's like, I'll send your champion to the back. I'm like, you can't do that. It's only characters. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Just because it's always been that way, I should double check. And I double checked. I'm like, oh wow. In the old world, if a champion refuses a challenge, they go to the back. And I was just like, no, move on. Nothing happens. And then I'm gonna double check just to make sure. Even though I was certain I was right, it's always been that way. I'm gonna double check. And then lo and behold, this might not make sense, but for me, it's more important to make sure I'm not wrong than it is to make sure I'm right. Interesting.
Yeah. I apply that logic a bit Flammable Hero, but where I go is I don't have to be right as long as the other guy's wrong. That's what I say.
Well, I don't think Flammable Hero's known for making jokes, but I think he's serious about that.
I think he's being serious about that.
And I think I like that. I think maybe that's actually what I do. Because for the scatter thing, in my opinion, if I were to move the little arrow, I would be wrong, or more importantly, I can't prove that I'm right. But I guess technically, interesting.
I think it's like maybe you don't like necessarily care about like how you play it, but you don't want to like carry incorrect information forward to other people.
Yes.
You know, right?
Yes, I don't care about I don't care about being right. I want to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to be right. I got an ego. I'm not gonna lie. I got an ego.
I mean,
but like,
where's Steve? What have you done with?
I know I net negative by being right, not correct. I need to be being correct is a positive thing for me. Being right is just my ego and does nothing for the channel.
Yeah.
I need to be correct for the channel. I can't just win an argument. And I know I love to argue and I can browbeat people into agreeing with me, and I try not to do that because I don't want to win the argument. I want to be correct. Gennick, there's give and takes for having the rune system, and that's your give. Thomas Geary, member for 6 months in the Rock Truck. Looking forward to this week's Bat Reps. What list are you most excited about playing, Steve? I don't know what I'm playing yet for Thursday. In fact, I should probably make that list with you guys. It's supposed to be my stronger list. But on Wednesday, Luke's playing pure Night Goblins, and I'm playing pure Common Goblins. It's a Goblin on Goblin action game, and it's going to be kind of like a wacky Wednesday type thing going forward, and Throwdown Thursdays is what we're going to try to do. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to do the Throwdown Thursdays. It's just going to turn into a bunch of arguing, and not with Luca and I. Oh, your list wasn't good. Your list would be better if. Your list would be better if. Remember, your list would be better if is just your opinion and your playstyle.
That's the point to the Throwdown Thursdays. That's your engagement stream.
I guess.
That's the one you re-upload and people comment on, and the channel gets boosted.
My God, is a Snickers Lucas Kryptonite or what?
I thought it was Dr. Pepper.
Steve, page 21 says you can issue a challenge from a model adjacent to the fighting rank, and page 212 says it is acceptable to leave both models in place. Oh, interesting. Let's run that down.
got an idea of how you can test if a Snickers is Lucas kryptonite.
I'm gonna keep pocket Snickers for when he goes off into too many tangents. We are gonna
I'm not going to say that. I mean, if you want to like truly know if it's his kryptonite, wait until you fail a charge you need to make. Put a Snickers on the table and said, "I made it." If he takes it,
I am gonna keep pocket Snickers around for Luca from now on, and I'm gonna keep chat off the screen during deployment. Page 211. I went too far. Fighting a challenge. I don't think it's page 211.
I've started doing. We're talking about playing a game and getting rules wrong without realizing it. I've started doing Middle Earth demos now, so I just know if I ever show up at the studio, I'm gonna have gone haven't gotten something wrong for months and teaching people the wrong thing.
Honestly, it's very possible. We do our best, dude.
Yeah.
I play Necromunda, man. This is nothing.
Yeah, no, fair. No, that's very, very fair. I'm not even trying to get that game correctly. Well, you guess you could. This would be very, very simple in all your lists.
I mean, if you want your like tiny little gang skirmish game to take like 6 hours,
So I won't be using the GT list because I read a bunch of them. I thought these are terrible lists. So which means one of two things: people are just submitting whatever models they have in their GT list, or those lists are amazing and I'm not seeing their play style.
There's some synergy going on, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of skirmish-sized games, pre-orders this week have some Witch Hunters that'd be great for Mordheim.
I hope Mordheim comes back to the old world.
Oh, that'd be new support for would be great.
Invocation of Heck is not a spell. Is that the wizard thing?
I mean, Invocation of the Heck is the like special rule that necromancers have.
Oh, got it. During the command stuff is a turn, making loose just. Why does it matter? Oh, because zombies can be healed past their starting number. Is that a thing? Where are you, zombies?
I mean, yeah, they can go over.
Is it called Newly Dead?
Might be. I don't remember.
Yeah, it is. I would think you can. It doesn't say you have to target a unit. Yeah, I'll say you can. Rules as written. I'll double check the wording, but I believe it said during the command series turn. Yeah. Yeah, rules as written, you definitely can. You're good. You can cast on zombies turn 1. Vamper counts really pissed for army. Well, there isn't a bad army. Oh, Brian, have you changed your opinion at all on Empire?
Kind of.
Starting to like them.
Like they're what?
Starting to like them.
I mean, I love them. My love of Empire has nothing to do with whether they're good or not.
Fair.
But like cannons are still amazing.
Yep. Demigriffs are amazing.
Demigriffs, yep. Demigriffs are very good, no doubt about it. My whole thing is like, and we talked about this last time. They definitely can build good lists. I think the amount of effort that you would have to put into building those good lists is kind of endemic of them needing like buffs, specifically in the play style they embody, which is the like ranked infantry, supporting each other, which I don't think they can do.
No,
so
see,
like, they play.
I'll just say I think swordsmen and halberdiers are just useless.
Oh yeah, Yeah, obviously, spearmen all the way.
Yeah.
There's a right option, which I mean, dude, I got 30 halberdiers, so I'm still running my 30 halberdiers every game. But
So
obviously, the right way to go is spearmen.
Somebody pointed something on the Discord last night, and like I'm upset that I didn't see this obvious answer, and a light bulb was like, oh my god, Outriders are trash. But
Really,
Outriders are trash. Come on,
I haven't
Impetuous.
used them yet.
Oh, because you have Impetuous.
No, not Outriders don't.
Oh, sorry. Pistoliers are trash. Pistoliers are trash.
Okay,
Because of Impetuous. You just take Outriders, skirmish them, and use them like your Pistoliers. You actually net a better outcome with their single pistol than the multiple pistol and lower ballistic skill. And when you don't need to move, you have all those big guns. And the points are it's a 5 or 10 point difference for the squad.
Well, yeah, Outriders are the way to go.
Didn't even consider using Outriders like I would have used my Pistoliers in the past.
You're hitting on 3s with half as many shots, but instead of 5s, so you net the same average.
Yes.
So
yeah, 4s if they're outside of half range, but yeah.
Yeah.
But those guys go to 6s. Yeah, you net more. Exactly. I think Outriders are. I'm upset that I didn't see the Outrider because I love Pistolier. I'm going to use my Pistolier models as Outriders. But
I mean, yeah, I think Pistoliers are fun, but there's no doubt about it. The Outriders are the way.
Well, I have a game I recorded for Mini Wargaming, a handheld game in the new format, and I had a big plan. I'm like, I got a plan that's going to do a thing this turn. It's going to really mess up Luca. All I have to do is not roll Impetuous for my Pistoliers, and guess what I did? I rolled it. They were Impetuous, and they're like, "Let's do this. We're going in, boss!" And they charged. I'm like, damn it.
I got a 50-50 shot of winning this game. Let's go, baby. Roll the dice.
I half love the rule because of it. Like, my game on Wednesday, I was playing a bunch of goblins. Everything's got Impetuous. Not a black orc on the list. So I don't have any control. They're going to charge when they charge, and that'll be it.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely counterplay. Like, there's ways to play around it, but it's a massive detriment to Pistoliers for sure.
So there is one thing that I'm working on. I've been really busy, so I haven't finished running down all of the rules. But I'll bring it up, and keep in mind, I don't have an opinion on this. It's something I'm working on, and I'll bring it up now so other people can get in on the conversation and maybe send me emails with page numbers that are going to help me out here. So I want to look at Dragon Ogres in the Beastman book for a second. Keep in mind, nobody take what I'm about to say as, oh, this is how this works. I'm not sure. Something I need to look into. So Dragon Ogres. What's it? There we go. Dragon Ogres. They're unit size 1+. The only formation they have is closed order. The rules say a unit must adopt the formation. Closed order says a unit to adopt closed order has to have 2 models. If you bring a single Dragon Ogre, can it even deploy? I haven't ran down all the pages on this trying to find the answer. It's going to take a bunch more reading than I want to do. But if you only have closed order and they're 1+, if you bring a single Dragon Ogre with closed order, it doesn't have lumbering.
Yeah. All the other 1 model closed order units have lumbering. So this is kind of unique.
Alexander, I know, I saw the email. I said I don't want to get into it, but I'm like, maybe I can get some help with the FAQ says closed order can be 1 model. Does it say that? Well, that would solve the problem.
Sure would.
Well, I'm glad I brought it up instead of spending a bunch of time trying to run down the answer and not checking the FAQ. Where would it be under? Can the unit rating closed order open order formation be 1 model wide? There we go. Problem solved. It's been errated. You know what? We ran that one down. Good job. Who said that? Oh, multiple people have. Go and frenzy yourselves. There you go, Alexander. There's your answer. So a unit of 3 or less can be in a marching column. All right, let's read your email. Maybe you have more to this discussion. It was right here. What formation do single model non-character units have for monsters and heavy chariots? Is covered by lumber, blah, blah. Okay, that's covered in the FAQ. So the problem saying they're just closed order, open order, as stated. Well, open order is not an issue. Oh, I see your interpretation. Let me go back to the FAQ. Okay, I that's hilarious. I see your reading, and I don't think that's what they meant, but I can't argue intent. So Alex basically saying, oh, all that means is you have to be in closed order. You still have to be base to base. You have to be 2 models, but one can be behind the front model. I don't think that's their intent. I think they're saying, hey, we mean for you to deploy 1 model. Can a unit arrayed in closed order or open order formation be 1 model wide? The answer is yes. Ah, no, I'm with you. Anybody else want to take this one? So, back to the original question. Can a single dragon ogre even deploy?
I think I would say yes, because what do you do if a unit with only closed order is like destroyed except 1 model? You're not removing the 1 model because it can't take a formation anymore.
Well, no. But it tells you must adopt a formation. I would assume that's during deployment. So if a unit of dragon ogres or any models, any unit gets killed down to 1 model, it no longer has a formation, but it still moves. It still has to wheel and all that kind of stuff. Like a single dragon ogre doesn't move like a skirmisher or anything like that. So they're not as bad as people thought they were. They still have to move under the normal movement rules. But yeah, we're talking about how does the single dragon ogre ever adopt its formation when it says you must adopt a formation, and you specifically can't adopt a closed order formation, and that's the only formation they have.
Where does it say you must adopt a
Yep.
formation? Actually in deployment?
It is. It's somewhere near the beginning. Normally, I like to have all these page numbers in my head before we even get in the conversation. But you know what? We'll do this as a group because...
Can I point out while you search that the index is the worst thing in the book?
It is! Brother, it is! It is the worst thing in the book.
It even can't point to index, by the way. If you look at index, it says page 3, which is wrong.
Okay, so it's under page 100, formation types. All units must adopt a formation, period.
Oh, God.
I'm going to go grab a water. Be right back. I know that how I'm going to handle this moving forward is I'm never going to bring a single dragon ogre or spawn or anything that has closed order in 1 model. I'm just not going to do it. But if my opponent ever does it, I'll just let them.
I mean,
like my gut feeling is he's in closed formation, but he doesn't get like the rulings of.
No,
additional...
that is what I believe the intent is. That's exactly what I believe the intent is. But
but I'm trying to look if there is any other unit which can be, or is it just the dragon ogres?
It's probably somebody mentioned spawn, and that's probably the same thing. Or spawn. What page are spawn on? Anybody know? Because like if you can't find another thing that does it, you could argue maybe they were meant to be only 2+, like every other unit. I can't find spawn. Are Spawn under
There has
Warriors
to
of
be a-
Chaos?
Whatever it is, there has to be an arrow in the book, right? Because
Yeah.
in the one book it says 1 to whatever, and the other says it has to be 2. If it's only the Dragon Ogre thing, but I'm not sure if there is like...
I would love to know what page Spawn are on.
Try the index and you will not find it.
I mean, it's a weak argument, but like page 100, the very top, like in bold, there says, additionally, single powerful models such as a character, a chariot, a dragon, or machine and its crew, and so on. You have to assume that covers dragon ogres. Also considered to be a unit. Therefore, whenever the rules that follow refer to units, this also includes units of one model.
Well,
So
that's
it says a unit in close order consists of 2 more models, but then here it says units also includes units of one model.
I think that's the line. I think that's the line telling you that single models have to wheel and all stuff. I think that's the intent of that line, right?
Yeah, that would be what covers
like,
that. But
And in closed order, it doesn't argue that a unit can be one model. It just says, like, if you want to have close order, you have to be 2 models or more.
Spawn or open order, so they're not relevant. So, no,
it was a weak argument, but like, if you wanted maybe something to justify their existence.
Josh, come on, we're playing the game right now. So, no, I think the only argument here is, and I guess most people wouldn't ever even looked at it because it's not an issue, because I do believe this is a case of rules as intent. It's probably, no, I don't want to say clear. I think I interpret rules as intent, but right now, if you must adopt the formation, and the Dragon Ogre only has closed order, so it must adopt the closed order formation, and to adopt the closed order formation, you must have minimum of 2 models. So either rules as written, unless we find something, this is a weird argument. Either rules as written, you must bring 2 plus Dragon Ogres, or you can buy 1, but you just can't ever deploy it. Chaos Trolls? What page are Chaos Trolls on? Are they closed order or open order? Wait, unless closed order also says 2 or more models. Does closed order say 2 or more models? I mean open order. Chaos Trolls are 1 plus, and they are closed order. Yeah, there's another unit. Chaos Trolls 1 plus and closed order.
Yeah, if we find more than like now, I think that it's just referring to the special rules for closed order. So
Tell Darren, I don't think there's an issue when 1 or 2 gets killed down to 1 because they've already adopted their formation. So I don't think there's an issue getting killed down to 1 model. But open order is the same thing. Okay, so everything open order, same thing. Interesting. Oh wait, does that mean? Like I played with Tyrannok chariots. I had a unit of 2, so it was fine. Does that mean you can't deploy a single? So like their FAQ almost certainly means you deploy 1. So I don't know if this is a conversation worth having. But this is funny. But this is me arguing rules as intended, and now I will never drop a single model of any of these units.
You're just never gonna run lone chariots ever?
No, I'll never run lone light chariots. Heavy chariots have lumbering and they're good.
They do.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't tell me my my Tuskor chariot is light. I love my single beastman chariots.
I could see either way on that one.
Yeah. Oh, they're heavy. We're good. We don't have to worry about my Tuskor chariots. FAQ, need for the FAQ. Well, I mean, play with who? You weren't a heresy player, but their first FAQ didn't fix the broken problems and made more things broken.
I know.
It was so bad. It was so bad, their first FAQ.
I mean, it's still not great, to be honest. Like, there are some things they need to cover, but they're getting there.
Yeah, Alex. Well, they're definitely not going to get the additional combat bonus because they need 2 models for the combat res. Let's go back to your email, see if I missed anything.
Does it state that so the combat where the
Yeah, you're right.
combat result is that did it specifically say 2 models there as well? I can't find
Yeah,
it. I'm trying to search for it.
well, to be a rate to have closed order, you have to have 2 models, and it gives you combat res. The lumbering special rule says you get all the rules of closed order, even though you only have a single model, so they get the combat res. So yeah, no, Alex, you're right. Rules as written, you're better off with 4 single trolls, or 3 single, or whatever dragon ogres than 1. Specifically the trolls for stupidity and stuff. Man, I'm just never gonna deploy those in units of 1. Never gonna do it. How's it going, Nico? Yeah, Colin L. There was a bunch of things about Heresy, how it was handled, that unfortunately killed it in my area too. I love that game. I love that game.
Yeah.
Like, the question I have is maybe the 2+ model count part is just for adopting the formation if you have multiple options. So if you're down to 1 model, you can't switch to a close order formation anymore.
Yeah.
If you have like, is there a unit type which can be closed order and something else? And if they are in something else, they can't switch back if only 1 model
right,
is left.
Exactly. So if they had like skirmish and closed order and they got shot down to 1 model, they can never go back to. Not that you'd want to, but no, Alex. The second line of closed order is a unit in closed order consists of 2 or more models, right? So no, they would not get the combat bonus, Alex. You have to have 2 models to combat to be in closed order. Three Manticores for your Dark Elves? You think they're going to be okay? I wish the Manticore had just 1 more toughness. I don't think it would be overpowered if it did.
I figured that one out, at least for the Chaos one, because you were like saying the Chaos one was only toughness 4, but it's only the Lord can take it, and he's already toughness
4. Yeah, no.
So it is.
No. But sorry,
the Dark Elf one is only toughness 4.
Wait, only the Lord can take it? I think the Sorcerer can too.
No, it's only. I'm very confident it's only the Lord.
The thing is, the kit like the Manticore comes with the Sorcerer.
Well, that would be bad.
I'm pretty sure they can ride it.
It might be the Sorcerer Lord, but at least the fighty character, it's only the Lord. Like, you can't put any of the toughness 4 fighty guys on it.
Okay, what page is mounts on? Yeah, Sorcerer Lord. A Sorcerer Lord could ride a Manticore, and the Sorcerer Lord is only toughness 4. So that's a Manticore running around with toughness 4 for Chaos as well.
It put it in a weird spot because you had the Chaos Lord is toughness 5, and then the Sorcerer Lord is toughness 4.
Right.
And so if you gave it +1 toughness, it would be toughness 6 when a Lord is on it, and only toughness 5 when he was on it. So, and then they probably forgot to do the math properly when they put it in Dark Elves.
That's exactly what I think happened, but I can't obviously back that up.
Yeah.
So Steve?
Yeah.
If you don't want to have the rule, so no giants anymore?
Why?
Because a giant is like in
no
like
the rule no the rule of lumbering covers that. It says lumbering says you follow all of the rules for closed order, even though you only have 1 model.
But the like maybe I'm wrong. In Orc and Goblin on page 38, he doesn't have lumbering.
No. Behemoths do. Go to the rule book. Behemoths do.
Okay.
Yes. Well, monsters do. All monsters do? Is it monsters or behemoths? It's probably monsters. It's under the chariot rules.
No, I'm talking about giant, page 38 in the like for orcs
but
and goblins.
The giant gets lumbering, because monstrous creatures do. There you go.
monstrous creatures, behemoths, and heavy
Yep.
chariots.
So yeah,
Okay,
monsters get
monsters.
lumbering in the core rulebook.
Okay.
Rob
Okay.
Castmore, thank you, super chat. Can a Chaos Sorcerer join a unit of Marauders in skirmish formation? And what about Chaos Sorcerer mounted on a Chaos Steed joining Light Cav Marauder unit? So, the Sorcerer cannot join Marauders in skirmish formation because I believe the Sorcerer is heavy infantry, right? Heavy infantry can join a unit of infantry, no problem, but there is a stipulation for skirmishers. What page am I on here? I need to find. I'm in the wrong book. Ravening Hordes. Heavy infantry for the Chaos Sorcerer. If we go to the rule book under. Crap. No. Okay, I think it's this page right here. Characters join skirmishers. Characters can only join skirmishers if they have the same subtype. So the subtype for the sorcerer is heavy infantry, and the subtype for the marauders is light or regular infantry. So sorcerers cannot join skirmishing marauders. Can't do it. And what about a chaos sorcerer mounted on a chaos steed joining light cav or marauder? Well, I don't know if the if you're in open order, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. If the marauder horsemen are skirmishing, then we have to find out what type of cav those both are. And I'm pretty sure, if you have a chaos steed, you are heavy cav. Yeah, so chaos steed's heavy cav, and then the marauders are going to be the marauder horsemen are going to be light cav almost for sure. So the answer is going to be no on that one, probably. Marauder horsemen are like that. So no, the wizard may not do it. Oh, sorry. The wizard may not do it if the marauder horsemen are skirmishing. If they are in open order formation, they're fine. He can join them in open order, but not skirmish. He can join the marauders in closed or open order, but not marauders in skirmish. So you must have the same subtype to join skirmishers. Lumbering gets +1 combat res. It's completely clear rules is written. The +2 model requirement is for closer. I guess sure, but they have to be base contact with one or more of those. I'm not sure what we're talking about. Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate for the Chaos Sorcerer, but it's probably for the better of the game. Yeah, I like them on chariots as well. Did we find anything about open order? I mean, closed order? Or we just have a problem with the game? We're just stuck there, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've been looking this whole time.
How would you play it?
I would just do like if my opponent. I don't have Chaos Warriors. So, but if my opponent brought them, I'd be like cool and play. And if they didn't, I.
Yeah, I'm just not. So like this is different from my argument about the scatter die thing. Is I'm gonna play rules as written, and even though I believe the intent could be they scatter, I can't say for sure, so I'm gonna make my opponent will also be playing the same way as me, which means the templates won't be moving. But here's this one's different in my mind because I'm gonna play rules as written, and I'm just not gonna deploy them and not use them. But if my opponent does, I actually strongly believe that it's probably the intent that they can. The FAQ also kind of implies, in my opinion, so I'll let them do it, and I'm being a complete hypocrite saying that.
I mean, the timing on adopt a formation is kind of vague, because it just like it says all units must adopt a formation, and then it says you need 2 models to be close order, and so then what happens when you don't have 2 models? Is nowhere is that defined. Like,
right.
I feel like it would make sense, say, like, if you had a unit that had close order and skirmish, they would, like, pop into skirmish the second they no longer had 2 models, but most things don't have both. So what exactly happens is completely unclear. There's no, like, definition of, like, what does a unit that isn't in a formation? Like, how does that act? Because
Um,
I would almost argue rules is written the second you don't have two models, you are out of close order formation, and
Yeah.
then the rules just completely collapse. Right?
I don't think so, because why do you think it completely collapse?
Because you have no idea what it does. You can't move it. It can't act. It can't do anything because it's not in a formation. And all of the rules around movement specifically call out like being in a specific formation. Like,
not all the rules, right? Like you can still move as normal and all that kind of stuff. You can still fight and everything. So like when a model in a unit, like we had in our stream, I had a unit of archers get killed down to a single archer. Well, the model still moves and wheels and must move forward and all that kind of stuff. Still has to do maneuvers, and we still know how to fight with him. He still has a bow and attacks and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't all fall apart. Like it still works in the game. We know not to give him a combat. We know he's not in formation no more, so we know not to give him a combat res. Did he follow the original rule of all units must adopt a formation? Well, it did at one point. It adopted one. Well, the argument would be that the Dragon Ogre has no way to ever have adopted one, and the rule says it must adopt one. I think the intent is the line all models must adopt is probably not meant to be there. Oh no, that needs to be there, so that. I don't know.
I think I would just like say if there's one with a single Dragon Ogre, I would say you can play it, but then you don't get the closed order combat result because you're not two models.
That's what I believe the intent is. Yeah.
That's how I would play it.
I'm just never going to bring single Dragon Ogres to my games until that's been FAQ'd.
But what
Again.
are you doing with your light chariots then? Or the other problems?
Same thing. The only light chariots that I would ever use would be Tyrannok chariots, and I got 2, and I've already played them in a squad of 2 without realizing that they all have the same problem. So I'll play my Tyrannok chariots in units of 2. That's how I'll play them until it gets FAQ'd again. Even though the FAQ probably meant for this exact reason, I can say almost certainly that FAQ was meant to say, yeah, you can deploy one single Tyrannok chariot, and the other chariot would be the Tomb King's chariot. And I don't really want to bring one anyway. I think it's kind of gamey, so I'll bring squads anyway. But yeah, it's not really an issue for me anyway. Well, I guess remember there was a stream a few weeks ago where I was making a list to play against Ben with my my Beastmen, and I started putting single Dragon Ogres in the list. I'm like, this is too gamey and gonna be too powerful. I'm just not gonna do it anyway. So I've already do that anyway. I've already reined myself in anyway. So yeah, it's a non-issue for me, and I'm not here to tell anybody else how they should play it. So me not doing it doesn't have to, the conversation never comes up in a battle report, so I'm not influencing other people out there. If my opponent does it, I would feel obligated to point out that we're not 100% sure how this works. This is how we're going to play it in this game. You guys figured out and how you want to handle it. Whereas, because I would only say that because I believe it works the way it's not written. Where my template argument is the other way around. So,
like I said, I only would argue if he wants to have the combat results thingy with a single like Dragon Ogre.
Well, he would. There's no, for sure he wouldn't get it. There's no way you can argue rules as written. He would get that.
Yeah,
and then
you could argue it because it has like closed order.
Nope.
And if
nope, you can't. You can argue it, but you couldn't argue it to completion, right? So closed order says you must have 2 models to.
Yeah, but then we come back to could he deploy the unit?
Yeah. So if we make it, then no. If we make hold on, stop. If we make a concession to put the model on the table, that's fine. But arguing in any way, shape, and form, it would get the combat result. Would be like, no, there's a specific rule in the game that already covers this. If you're a single model in closed order with lumbering, you get it. We have something to move to draw to. Be like, oh, clearly this model won't get it. There's no way you can argue with any kind of, I'll use Talieran's favorite word, common sense, that you would get the combat resolution. Yeah,
I'm with you on that, but I'm just saying, like, which formation does he adopt when he's played?
He doesn't adopt. He does not adopt one.
So you're just arguing that this part of the rule book is not working then?
Yes, yeah, for sure. Well,
So he
or
leaves
or
without
maybe
any
or
information.
maybe these things are meant to be 2+, or they're or the FAQ or the FAQ was meant to be interpreted that you could bring one model.
Mhm.
What?
Yeah, I would agree. Like I would say, basically you can put it there, and you have basically with one model no formation at all, so you don't get the rank like the combat bonus, and it's fine for me.
So, Candid, to start another little fight with you, the reason why I don't want to use the common sense argument for the template thing is I believe I'm arguing with common sense, and I believe you're arguing from a conclusion. And that's why we shouldn't use common sense for an argument. Sorry, I didn't mean to get up. I like to fight. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. So how to handle this? In your group, figure out how you want to handle it. If you're going to an event, I would ask first. If I would ask your TO, how are we handling single dragon overs in your event? That's all. Problem solved. Does TTS have an old world model yet? I believe it does, TJ. I believe it does. So all units must adopt the formation at page 100. So single models with no formation naturally combust into flames. What page number is that on? Yeah, but why not? Zen, you too, buddy. I believe I'm arguing from common sense, and you're arguing from conclusion.
Generally, to save my
We don't have
sanity,
to agree, though. Go ahead.
Generally, to save my sanity, I choose to assume that the rules are intended to be restrictive, not permissive, and that like unless something is like clearly defined in how it works and what like the limits of it are, that like it's you know it's okay, you know, right? So it's like the fact that like clearly units can at certain points in the game be made to be one like model and have close order formation, even though they aren't in close order formation anymore. The implication of the game's rules are you can still keep playing, you know, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't just like
Yeah.
stop working. So you have kind of got to just move forward from there.
Yeah.
Like it didn't say what happens when you have one model, so you just do the best you can with the rules as they are.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Mhm.
This another thing. It needs an FAQ. It needs an FAQ.
And I mean, generally speaking, the like army books trump the core rule book. So like when it says you can take one dragon ogre, like I mean, you can take one dragon ogre. Now it causes all kinds of problems, but like that's what I would come down on is like you can, but just for everyone's sanity, it's probably better that you don't. You know?
So, Alex, here's what I would do if I was running. Even though Brian just said the kind of the exact opposite, maybe I don't know. So here's what I would do, Alex, if I had to be the TO. I would say, hey, the rules say you can bring one, so clearly they mean you to bring one. Not clearly, but I would say just bring one. You don't adopt the formation and just do it. That's how I would rule my tournament, even though I won't bring one to a regular game beforehand. But I would make it very clear for everybody beforehand to know about that. And if I thought that would be a problem, I would talk to a bunch of people playing, like, well, how do you feel about this? How would you want this ruled? Have a discussion about it. But I would probably, I don't want to take away from somebody. And I feel ruling it the way I just said would be not taken away from somebody. Maybe, I don't know. How's it going, Adam? Remember, everyone, all TOs love when you argue with them, especially when you say, but Steve said, don't ever do that. The TO has the final word. Nemo, I don't like Dragon Princes. Even though I'm getting 10 more painted. I'm going to have 15 Dragon Princes and I'm going to play them in a game. Would I ever bring them in a competitive list? No, absolutely not. They're going to be fun to play with. I will never bring Dragon Princes in a competitive game. But that doesn't mean they're useless. Well, they are useless, but they're not useless.
I don't know, man. 2-attack cavalry. That can't be useless.
I think they only have 1 attack. I gotta double check.
Dragon Princes? No, they've got 2.
I'm pretty sure they got 1.
That's their claim to fame. They've got 2.
I gotta find them. Even at 2 attacks, I don't like them. I'm getting more. and I'll play with them. I just don't like having loss of control.
But you played orcs through all the editions where they had animosity, which was like
Yeah,
so much
and
worse.
I hated the rule. Oh yeah, here are 2 attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 attacks, 37 points a model, initiative 5, weapon skill 5. These are nice stats. They are 2 up save and toughness 3. They are definitely. Cav is pretty good this edition. They're only strength 3 though.
They got lances.
Yeah, they're not useless. I just don't like impetuous, and that's just my opinion.
Fair.
What am I going to show 100% frenzy list? I actually played one for Mini Wargaming. I played Mark of Corn. It was. You watch that video when it comes out, and I hated every minute of it. Yeah, Dragon Princess might be. No, I was just going to be overpowered though. Impetuous, they're good. They're no Grail Knights.
Like, if just as is you dropped impetuous, they would. I don't know, man. 37 points for that.
Yeah, no, they're good. I would probably have them in every list.
Yeah.
Every competitive list. I would probably, if without impetuous, I would do like Grail Knights, same stats with strength toughness 4, right?
And weapon skill 6.
Grail Knights weapon skill 6.
Yeah, somehow.
Damn.
I get it. I know.
Wow. Well, Grail Knights only have a 3-up armor save.
That's true. But they have a ward. They have a built-in ward. So
true. Yeah, Grail Knights. I struggle, even though I tell people never to do this. I struggle to look at a unit and not compare it to somebody else's. Like, I'd rather have Grail Knights, but I don't have Grail Knights on this list.
Yeah. What are Grail Knights? They're super pricey though, right? They're more than.
They're probably, I'm gonna guess 42 points. I'm a couple
Something
pages
like
away. Oh, they're before the Wood Elves. $38 points. They're 1 point more.
Yeah.
You get better weapon skill, better strength and toughness, less armor, but a ward save. No, Grail Knights are there's lance formation. Grail Knights are just. Do the Dragon Princes have counter charge?
They do.
Okay, good. Why do questing knights not have counter charge? When you drop your lance and go on the quest, you lose the ability to counter charge. That's got to be an epic or a mistake, right?
I don't know. They traded it to be weapon skill 5 this edition.
I'd rather have counter charge weapon skill 4.
Debatable, but yeah.
I love counter charge. I love it.
It is very good, but it's also like it requires your opponent to have something you can counter charge.
I guess the questing knights don't really need counter charge other than the initiative bonus to their great weapons, but I'd rather have counter charge.
Most of the things you can counter charge don't have great weapons, so it really doesn't matter. You're going second, you know. You don't have a lance, you know.
Yeah, Grail Knights are just too damn good. I'm not going to buy more. I have 6. I'm not going to buy more. I'm going to keep it at that.
Dude,
you know what's better than Grail Knights? Pegasus Knights.
I mean, a Grail Knight is like a Grail Knight champion literally has the same profile as a paladin.
Yeah.
But like 1 less wound. Like that is literally the only difference.
Also, paladins used to have up skill 5, the same as a Grail Knight. Do paladins have up skill 6 now?
I believe so.
Sergeant Arms, where are you? Lords of Bretonia. Paladin weapon skill 6. Nice.
Yeah.
I guess you can't have the paladin lower weapon skill than the Grail Knight.
Well, Bretonia got everything this edition because they're just the cool boys, and you know that's great for them. They spent a long enough time being bottom tier.
Finally, they're done. Pegasus Knights are too good. They probably are too good. How do they compare to Demigris? I'd rather have I'd rather have, if you're fighting Demigriffs versus Grail Knights, equal points, I'll take the Grail Knights all day long. Oh, no, I wouldn't. Sorry, the Lance formation is going to screw it up. No, I'll take the Demigriffs.
Wait, do you take Demigriffs over Grail Knights?
if they're
Did I hear
fighting,
that right?
if they're fighting each other,
Oh, Grail
which
Knights.
side?
Come
No,
on.
which side are you going to bet on?
Grail Knights.
The
every day.
the Demigriffs will have 3 Strength 5 AP2 attacks per model.
And the Grail Knights will have 2 Strength 6 AP2 attacks per model, and they're hitting on 3s.
All right, we got to see point for point.
I mean, it's almost 2 Grail Knights per Demigriff. It's not quite, but it's like close to that, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna get 2 to 1. You're right, almost 2 to 1. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the Demigriffs probably win that one.
Nah, dude. Weapons like they're just hitting less, you know. It's like
16%
like
less.
the Lance formation lets them just get more attacks in, right? So like they have more people in base, and then the Demigriffs can only really I think the Demigriffs could only get 2 guys in base.
No, hold on. That's why.
No,
That's
yeah.
That's why I said that originally.
Yeah,
The Grail Knights. So the Demigriffs have a 2-up armor save. So they're gonna be 4-up armor saves against the Lancers from the Grails. Then the Demigriffs are gonna rip them back, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, and then the Grail Knights are gonna have a 5-up, 5-up. It's a close fight, but I think I don't want to do the math. Anybody do the math? I think the Demigriffs win that one.
Grail Knights go first. They have higher initiative, and we're assuming
doesn't
matter who's charging.
They both have counter charge, so they're both charging.
Yeah. So Grail Knights are gonna go first. They're gonna do enough damage that they win, and then I don't know. Maybe this is just my bias, but I've always thought Demigriffs were a little bit overrated. Like they're really good, no doubt about it.
I agree with you. They have been overrated for every edition, but they are I don't want to say they are top tier in this edition.
Now because they didn't lose attacks and everything else lost attacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't lose armor when most things lost armor. There's a lot of
Well, they went from 1-up to 2-up. They're actually one of the things that did lose armor.
Fair.
Like they're one of the things that actually did lose armor, unlike Grail Knights, which were 3-up and are still 3-up.
You know what? Let's just assume. My calculator. I'm gonna do some quick math. So 6 Grail Knights. How many points? 38 times 6. So 228. How many points are Demigriffs?
Like 60-ish.
So let's say 3 on 3. So we're gonna have 12 attacks. Forget command, all that kind of stuff. 12 attacks times 6, and then and then your strength 6 going into toughness 4, so they're gonna wound 84% of the time. And then Demigriffs will have 4-up save. Armor bane. I don't want to do a factor armor bane. Let's just forget armor bane for now.
Okay.
All right, so we kill 1 Demigriff, 3 wounds. So we have 2 Demigriffs attacking back. So we have 4 attacks. That's 0.5. Whoops.
6 attacks.
No, because one's gonna die. Because
they have 3 attacks each.
But the lances are gonna be faster.
Yeah.
No. We're doing the lances first.
Oh, okay. So you have 3 lance attacks.
No, we're gonna do 2. We're gonna do 2 attacks. We're gonna forget command for now.
Yeah.
So 2 attacks, and they're gonna hit 1 time, and that's gonna have 84% chance to wound, and then times 0.33. No, times 0.66. Times 0.33 plus 18. So it's gonna be. This is
reward save again.
Yeah, I'm factoring that in.
Yeah.
Times point.
They probably don't kill anyone.
Plus 0.18.
That's what it comes down to.
So the lances, 50-50 do a wound. So you can add that 0.5 afterwards if it matters. So the lances probably do nothing. Otherwise, we have 6 attacks from the Demigriff.
Wait, two lance attacks, 50-50 to do a wound?
No, sorry. 2 lance attacks has a 0.5% chance of doing a wound.
No, they. Oh, 0.5%.
Yeah, failing armor, failing the ward save. So 0.5% chance.
0.5% is like.
Sorry. Kills half a model.
Kills half a model.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
But no. That's wrong because they have a 50-50 chance at hitting.
Yes, they get
So
one
then
hit. One hit.
You have one
And it
hit.
has 84% chance to
then-
wound off of that.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it kills half a model. So we have 6 more attacks from the demigriff times 0.5 because half of them are going to hit, and times 66% that goes through. So we have 1.18 dead models for saves. But we have a rerollable, so we have to do this twice. So it's going to be, damn, I'm not good at this. On the 66% of the fail, so it's going to be 18% again. So we're going to do. So effectively, they both. I'm going to kill one model back. Yeah, you're right. The Green Knights win. My bad.
Yeah.
You are right.
I mean, Grail Knights are just like beasts. Like, there's nothing that they can't really fight. Like,
Oh yeah, Green Knights are awesome.
Yeah.
But so are demigriffs.
yeah, for sure. I just like the Grail
And the
Knights.
thing-
You
the thing
also
about-
gotta think they're bringing lance formation. They're bringing
The thing about the Grail Knights, they're gonna take a lot of. Now this is one of those weird arguments, but they're gonna take a lot of fire going in because they're single wound models. Every time you kill one, you're massively affecting their effectiveness. Whereas demigriffs, you typically try to mitigate them, not try to kill them, because better armor save, more wounds. You got to do a lot more work to lower their combat effectiveness against most targets. So Grail Knights are very susceptible to enemy chaff things.
I would
But
just
that's a weird
way
argument, I
Rather
know.
have. I would just way rather have a 3-up armor and a 5-up ward than just a 2-up armor on it. Like, I don't know.
Well,
Just
against
that is better.
up against handguns, crossbows, bows, fireballs, it's a 3-up, 6-up.
No, could they have Grail Vow?
Is Greville
They just
always
don't.
5-up?
That's always 5-up, right?
No, I'm not sure. I played too many armies. I thought it was still the same. In WaP it was. Too many armies, too many editions.
That could be what I'm thinking of, but I would have sworn it was still the same.
Somebody in chat's gonna call it before we get there.
Yeah.
So the blessing of the ladies is the rule. 6-up, 5-up, and then see what the Grail do. No, these two are the 6-up, 5-up.
All right, I stand corrected.
It's all right.
Yeah.
A lot of additions, a lot of games. We're gonna get things wrong. I love Nico's argument, and it's a valid argument. I see your math and raise you hotwood dice today because this is always going to work for me. So let's redefine the question. So me with demigriffs or anybody else with Grail Knights, I'm going to win. Dicer's going to do what I want. I'm going to make all my saves. And that's the thing too. You know what? Not that this is a weird argument, but no, it's a good one. And dice swinginess greatly favors the demigriffs too, because they have to get all three. If the demigriffs roll slightly higher on their armor saves, which are already 4+, they're going to increase their offensive power by 33%. And the more dice you throw, the more the things can swing. So the 12 attacks. It's still 12 attacks on Grail Knights. Never mind. I'm defeating my own argument. I concede to myself.
The Grail Knights get to try to go first either way, so if they spike, then it's even better for them because they've got the initiative advantage. And the demigriffs can only really spike on their armor because that's what they have to do first. Well, that's not. You know, you want.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I think the initiative and the weapon skill is just. Gonna swing the Grail Knight's way every time.
I think we've exhausted chat. So unless anybody else has another topic we want to run down, I'll quickly scan the emails if I want to do one of them. But otherwise, we'll call it in a bit. List. I don't want to do a list right now. I do want to argue about rules if anyone has a rule to argue about.
I mean, we were briefly talking about like Empire before, and I saw you played a bunch of Empire games following that discussion. Did you learn anything?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one. Their infantry is just shit. Except for spearmen. Except for spearmen.
Okay, good.
Except for spearmen.
Okay. Good. We're on the same page.
Always bring an Empire captain with a great weapon and full plate armor in your spearmen. You now have a 55-point upgrade that gives you a couple of attacks with a great weapon, leadership 8, and immune to panic. And immune to panic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. That's a great idea. It still like hurts me to see 2 attacks.
Oh, I know.
Like
I agree.
I'm like, I look over at the 30-point goblin big boss with his 3 attacks, and I'm like, why?
I look at it as I'm immune to panic until we get into combat, and then in which case I'm great. So my biggest liability for them in the past has been panic. Now I'm immune to panic. Pure cav lists, even just regular knights, work. Pure cav lists work for Bretonia. You don't bring pistoliers. Bring outriders and play them like pistoliers. And then, man, I kind of like the War Altar.
Really?
Yeah, it has not been difficult to keep my wizard 12 inches away from the War Altar, but constantly slamming my War Altar because the way I play these days is I'm constantly trying to put pressure on my enemy wizards, and my War Altar is constantly is one of the pieces I use to keep going towards them. Like, do you want to come engage this thing? No. Do you want to come fight a toughness 5 thing with one of your chaff things? No. You want to put a big unit into him? Great. Put a big unit into him. He'll hold for a bit. Otherwise, he's to keep hunting down your wizard. And the reroll hits and wounds of 1 from the prayer. It's actually awesome. Hammer of Sigmar prayer from that War Altar has. I don't want to give spoilers because I have some games coming out even for mini wargaming. But I think you can infer that Hammer of Sigmar prayer on Leadership 8, Leadership 8's only Leadership 8, whatever, but it's been amazing. Amazing.
I mean, I'm sure it can pull it off, but like, just the unreliability is kind of irking.
No, I'll say to be fair, I didn't fail my Leadership 8 once. Tom, welcome to the Mountaineers, brother. But yeah, I didn't fail it once, so I was always able to make use of it. So there's that. I'm actually really loving the Lector on War Altar to the point where he's almost going to be an auto-include in my list going forward.
You have a heavy chariot coming in, re-rolling to wound on all of its impact hits. That's going to do a lot.
No, you don't. I never give Hammer Sigmar to the chariot. I give it to somebody else.
Well, he always gives it to himself and someone else. That's just the rule.
Well, that's not how I read it. Really?
That's the rule. It specifically says
so,
him and whatever unit he
picks. When you watch the game where I do on mini wargaming, I did not know that.
Fair enough.
And it was constantly in combat. Flagellants I think are amazing. I keep bringing them in blocks of 30 because they're fun, but I think the best way to run flagellants in an infantry list is squads of 10. And just use it to like force people to charge them, and then you countercharge. But they need more playtesting. I'm digging flagellants. So Luca played a game against me where he brought MSU Slayers, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like what you're doing there, so I'm gonna try it with flagellants, and it kind of works. Where's the prayer? Is it specifically on the War Altar or is it on the priest?
It's just on the prayer. This model and a single friendly unit that is within its command range when the prayer is chanted. Yeah. It's just on each of the individual prayers, it says this model and one unit in its command range.
Wow.
Like Hammer of Sigmar. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually okay. All right, I like it. I like it. I like
mean,
it.
It's definitely good for the war altar because that's something that you would want to have a prayer on. But like generally speaking, the warrior priest, like if he's just on foot, it's like it's only him and a unit, so it can be his unit, but like you know, it's not that big a deal if you're like trying to spread it around if he's just in a like on foot. But
So Armageddon Bound, I don't believe. So I think there's some you're referring to some stuff there, but he says, "Do you think Empire was nerfed because the writers were playing WaP and they were OP?" Brian and I are not going to agree on this. I do think Empire was crazy overpowered in WaP. I don't think the playtesters played a whole lot of WaP, even though there are definitely some things that are drawn from WaP, in my opinion. I don't think. I think after I understand Empire more and more, I think they are a direct buff from what they used to be in 8th edition. I think they're significantly stronger than they were in 8th edition, but significantly weaker than they were in WaP. That's my opinion.
stronger
Anyway.
than 8th edition?
Yes, I
don't
think
know
so.
about
I think so.
Okay.
8th, well, so 8th edition, they had one way of playing. 2 hordes of halberdiers, steam tank, life magic, 2 steam tanks, life magic. That was the only way to play them. Competitively. Sorry. We're talking competitively
Fair
here.
enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't really get involved in the competitive scene much.
Fair,
so,
fair.
I just say like again because they were really good in Armies Project,
Yeah.
but ridiculously overpowered.
They were the only army in the game of WaP, which I want to. No offense to WaP, I thought WaP was fantastic. I thought the balance in WaP was probably worse than 8th edition, probably worse than 7th edition. One of the worst balances I've ever seen, in my opinion. But I still loved it. Don't get me wrong. You can't balance doesn't always make a game better.
Sure.
But that being, what point was I about to make? Balance.
About the
so there was the
regimental-
Empire was the only army in the game where I would look at a core rule in their book and like I'm just not going to use it. It's too powerful. I think it was game-breakingly overpowered.
We were just talking about how like the regimental detachment unit is pretty much useless this
It is.
edition.
That's my belief.
Don't get me wrong, it is a nerfed version of what they had in Armies Project, but
No, it's not. It's not
still
even
does
close to the same.
thing. What's the difference? What
So
is so impactful that
unit
it's
size
so
does not matter.
overpowered?
Unit size does not matter. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you have units as big as you want. You don't have to
Yeah.
define specific regiments that have to countercharge for a parent unit. Anybody can countercharge for anybody at any size. It is not even. It's basically not the same rule. It was so busted overpowered in WaP.
So then, I mean now I'm just making stuff up now, but like if this edition, Old World, you brought say I don't know a like 50-man greatsword unit, right? Like you can do it. That's like what, like 500 and something points. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yep.
And then you had 2 25-man spearman units, like sitting on its flanks that were the detachments. Would that be overpowered now? Right? Because they're huge units that can countercharge.
In this edition,
yeah.
No, in my opinion, no, because the points are different. Empire models were in WaP greatly undercosted, especially with the countercharge thing. So they had more units than everybody else. Empire, even though their infantry is relatively cheap, aren't putting down massively more units than other armies. So in WaP, in my opinion, I'll keep qualifying that, you just bring a bunch of infantry, stand in a line, bring a couple of pieces of artillery and magic, and destroy your opponent, forcing them to come and engage your lines, which you're always going to have a massive advantage over. You can't do that playstyle in this edition. You can't sit back with 2 cannons and a wizard and force your opponent to come deal with you.
That is a fair point. The ranged being nerfed also nerfs that because it's an inherently defensive mechanic.
So this is where I think I particularly have a little bit more of an advantage on some people in these kind of discussions. Is we tend to have these discussions and only think about one aspect of the interactions we're talking about, when like you have to consider the other changes that do affect things. Like you're right, less shooting, less models, all these things combine together to change the situation. and I'm playing constantly. So I'm like, I guess it's fair to say I'm coming up. I'm realizing that it's a different situation now than it was previously because I'm actually in it. I don't have to go to Theory Hammer. I get to actually. I've experienced it. It's not a threat anymore. In that regard, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and that could just be my personal experience because, like, I play Empire obviously, so I played it plenty of times, and at no point did it feel like ridiculous, like it did it feel game breaking to me. Like it was good, but like if your opponent knows how, like they're aware of the rule, there's counterplay, right? You can like line up multiple units, this and that. I think it's harder to keep everything within 3 inches of each other than you are giving credit for and still be winning the game. Like if you're just ceding tons of board space to your opponent because you're like keeping everything within counter charge range of each other so they can support each other, there's drawbacks there. But at the same time, I wasn't super competitive.
Yeah,
so like maybe there are lists that are truly unfair.
I've played with and against it numerous times, and was like, I don't think there was no counterplay. I'm like, once both players had to be fair, the models and the understanding was like, there's literally nothing I could do. I can stay here and try to get into a gunfight with you, which you're winning, or I can try to engage you. And the second I declare a charge, you're never gonna declare a charge. The second I declare a charge, I lost. I know for a fact because WaP had attacks way reduced. All of a sudden, you have. We're gonna have like 10 attacks on 10 attacks fighting each other, and all of a sudden you're adding a flank charge, 3 more ranks, more banners. Like the game WaP was combat result by 1 or 2, 3 or 4 at the most. All of a sudden, all you do is be Empire and be like, I'm gonna go into combat result. I'm gonna be like +6 before we even roll to die. I'm like, wait a second. these fights are determined by 1 or 2 typically.
I think you're kind of doing the same thing. You're not taking the totality of the addition into mind because there are stubborn units and like army, like don't run away when they lose combat and like unbreakable units and like all that. So it's like,
well, okay, so
you might say you get flanked and you auto lose combat, which depending on what they get, what they're fighting, like remember these are still state troops. So like I'm just imagining Chaos Chosen going in and just getting more attacks, right when they get flanked.
Yeah, but I mean, they're gonna one unit is going to flee and the other's gonna win the fight because the Chosen only won 1 fight in that edition, not both. And then they're gonna be held down, and you have another turn to get sent to another one of your. Remember that happened on your opponent's turn. You're charging on your opponent's turn. Then your main unit runs away, and then you go to your turn, and now you have another unit on them, and now you're in 2 of their flanks. Like so, there was I talked about Undead Forever. There was a stream where I was playing against Luke in the Vampire accounts, and I was using the Empire, and he came up and said right in the stream like, "There's nothing I can do. I have more units than everybody else. Typically, the Empire have more units on the table than even me and my Undead, who we all kind of agree is a problem. And there's nothing I can do. I can't charge anywhere. And like, yeah, you're this is just like an auto win for me. He walked forward, he charged in, lost the game. But again, my experiences." My dice, my situations, my little bubble. That is absolutely fair. But never before was there a rule in a game where I'm like, I'm just not going to use it. It's way too powerful. Never before have I done that.
Okay, that's a fair point. I just never had that level of success. Like that might just be how I played because I would normally use it more for the stand and shoot, right? I have like ranged units firing as they were coming in, and the situations where I did countercharge, and maybe it was the points level. Were you guys playing like huge games? Because maybe it hits up like a tipping point.
We were playing 25.
Okay, yeah, maybe once you get a high enough point level, you can like build like across the board, and then at that point, like you don't need to cede space to like be within 3 inches of each other. You can just have units going the whole way across. But I just feel like
I need to say something. I did insult WaP's balance. I actually thought, this is just my opinion, I actually thought if you played WaP at 2,000 points, the game came out pretty damn balanced. I felt the pullaways always came when you got past 2,000 points. I thought at 2,000 points that game was fantastic.
Yeah,
that was I have my biases, my opinions, the way I like the game to be played, factoring into that. I thought at 2,000 points it played fantastically, and maybe I never personally played Empire at 2,000 points that I can recall. So maybe at 2,000 points it wasn't a problem.
See, and that's what I would have mostly played. So
maybe that could be the case.
Yeah, I just think like it's a very strong rule that there are ways to counterplay. So it's like that's the part I disagree with is the
Yeah,
like there's
fair.
nothing I can do. It's like I so I only own Empire as my physical collection, but like I've played a million games on TTS, so I've played every army,
nice.
right? And I've played against Empire as other armies, and I was never like, oh boy, they can countercharge. What do I do? Right? That didn't. I never felt that way. So, but
Fair, yeah, that's fair. I could just be damn wrong, and maybe it was totally fine. And every time we rolled some dice, weird things happen, which is honestly, it's not outside the realm. Like Flame Heroes making a joke about, I played an entire game. I've played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games of Warhammer Fantasy in front of a bunch of people. Never once I had a game, except for the one time that I had a game, where I lost an entire army, tabled, without my opponent losing a single model. I had a Warriors of Chaos game, played against Tomb Kings. I got shut off the table, panicked off the table, ran off the table. And weird things happen. Somebody was asking earlier about ogres. Ogres, I'm loving 4 wide nowadays, Owen. Oh, and you're doing the same thing. Yeah, I think I'm not going to run ogres in ranks anymore. I think ogres 4 wide are where I want to run.
The game is just so wide. And I'm not even talking about like line hammer. I'm just saying like just even when you're just doing normal play, the game so much space.
Yes.
I don't know that I like it at this point. Like I haven't played enough games to fully come down one way or the other, but like especially with my Empire, I'm feeling like okay. So
yeah, I get
I'm
that.
out of room and we're playing a 2,000 point game. I guess I'm not playing 2,500 point game anytime soon, right?
It is different, and it is a bit of an adjustment. It is different. It is the same game we've played for 30 years, or how long you've been playing, but you can't deny that the old world, the base sizes do change a lot of the tactics of the game. It just does.
Yeah.
Charges you're used to making and then the fact that you have to pay for your wheel, where a lot of players these days only came off of 8th edition. They're used to just being willy-nilly charges. Like I'm watching videos of like explaining charges, and like they're explaining everything correctly, and they're going, it's just so weird and it's very clunky. I'm like, well, that's kind of how it's kind of worked for every edition but 8th. It's like you only come out 8th where they oversimplified it. They very simplified it. I get how like the mindset is like, yeah, they made it too hard. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I loved 8th, but the how loosey goosey and how far you could charge an 8th was the big thing for Luca. I'm not speak for him, but the big thing why Luca didn't like 8th. Now we both didn't like the magic in 8th because magic was too powerful in 8th. WaP Matthias freaking nailed magic. Like I wish I like old world magic. I wish they took more from WaP's magic for the old world. Matthias freaking nailed it.
Yep. Coming off of that, I mean, I'm not impressed honestly with the magic. I'm just like, it's what I kind of feared when like they coming off of Heresy 2nd edition, and like where the psychics got like really simplified to where like unless it's telepathy, you're kind of just like throwing out like like damage or like very very minor buffs. It just doesn't feel like what I want it to be.
So
and then magic didn't go as far, but ended up in a place where I'm just kind of like, I'm just not excited by it.
I'm gonna recommend you keep playing.
Well, for sure.
I've been on the whole magic roller coaster. This is lame. This is boring. This is awesome. This is overpowered. This is underpowered. I'm now sitting at like myself and my regular opponent are starting to really understand. Even though I feel Luca overexposes wizards a little too much, likes to take the risks. We're starting to really understand the nuances of the magic and then the extra plays of magic. I'm actually really freaking loving magic. In fact, I think I gave Josh Josh is in chat right now, a bit of a lesson in magic yesterday where. I'm trying to make sure like there's a point where I'm not casting my magic missiles. I choose to instead march my wizard to make sure my opponent is unable to use a wizard leading spell to remove my tempest spell because I get too far away from their wizards in the conjuration phase. Once you understand all the like little nuances of it and like start using them, the game became we have an army fighting each other and we have wizards trying to like deal with each other and protect their own spells from the enemy wizard. There's a lot more play to it than at first realized. And when you have to play a bunch of games, learn all the rules of the game, figure out how to use the rules of the game, and then realize that the Magic sub game is actually still a thing in a big way that doesn't seem obvious. And that's once again my opinion. It's like it actually is far more in depth than I originally realized.
I can see like where you're coming from with that, with the maneuvering. Like it's like maneuvering is now like a huge part of Magic, where it just kind of wasn't before.
Yeah.
You had the range to do whatever you wanted. But at the same time, I feel like the range of the spells is so low that you're just like
I've been there. I've been there.
Where you need to be, you have to get where you need to be. So in that hand, the maneuvering is like more important.
Yeah.
But you're just gonna mosh pit in the center. I feel like the inevitability is where stuff is going down is where your wizard is gonna need to be to cast their spells, and so then they're within dispel range, right? And then it's just a dice off. Right?
That has not been my experience as of late. The most powerful spells I'm seeing are things that are on the table, and that act as dangerous or difficult terrain, thus messing up your opponent's charges. So it's always about getting the spell. If the spells had longer range, I think they'd be overpowered. Once you understand that those are really, really powerful, because like for example, like the prime example is my game with Josh. I have Tempest out in the battlefield. So first I march my guys all the way into charge range of his units. No spoilers here, Josh. So be careful what we say. So I march my guys all the way into charge range of his units, but I have Tempest there, so he has to take -1 movement and the lowest die. He's almost certainly going to fail these charges. But if he dispels my Tempest, he's going to go right in and I'm in trouble. So now I'm going to give up my shooting and have my wizard just get the hell out of dodge so they can't dispel it. And now next turn, I give and take. I give up my Fiery Convocation. He fails charges. I can now then charge in, and he's still disrupted because my spell's there disrupting him and everything. It's like, oh, the spell kills all these models, not because the spell did it, but they tried to charge me, couldn't, and I broke them and they die, type thing, right? Like
a Wood Elf spell that summons a forest.
I don't know how that one works. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how it works good.
No, because it's difficult terrain. Like you just.
Oh, and it also blocks line of sight.
Yeah, dude. Like I mean, I've only played with it once so far. Some of us don't play this game professionally, but I like my first thought of it was a dismissive, like, oh, that's not going to do anything. And then I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me if you just like toe into this forest on the charge, you're -1 movement and have to take the lowest die? It's unless you're hugging me, you're not making the charge now all of a sudden, right?
Colin, like, exactly what Brian's saying right now is what you got to start thinking about in spells. Oh yeah, and frenzy and impetuous stuff. Like you put these spells that do dangerous terrain or difficult terrain, and they're not like charges already super reduced. You're able to freely move up. So Warhammer: The Old World is a movement and maneuvering type game, and spells don't end your opponent. They don't just kill armies. They help you do that part of the game, if you think of it that way. Now, Fireball also, in my opinion, does that as well. You got skirmishers coming up ready to do some maneuvering and movement against me. I got Fireball them. All the spells, if you think of like, spells aren't a big damaging tool. They're more about affecting the state of the game, flow of the game, what your opponent wants to do. It takes a lot of practice, and again, that's also my play style. But if you can, I feel like the most important thing to master, this is really hard to say, but I think any top tier tournament player will probably be having to master the Magic phase.
Yeah.
As much as the movement phase.
And so this kind of wraps back around, like, because I know exactly what you're talking about as far as like the power of the vortexes and similar spells to like shape the game. And like you pretty much almost exclusively play with Luca, or the majority of your games are always with Luca, who you have like a veteran player there that you can both play that way off of each other and like have great times. So like I live in an area where all of the people are brand new to Old World.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like, hey, and now you can't play the game, right? Like, and so that's like I agree with you. That's the way to use Magic. or that's one of the way. That's probably one of the better ways to use magic. But at the same time, like it's one of those things where it's like for a veteran player coming into the game now, you can it almost feels bad,
Well,
you know, right?
Gage just said it, right? And I think I want to expand on that. If you're a veteran Warhammer Fantasy player, you should play more games to understand the differences. So I think veteran Warhammer players are doing a disservice trying to help the community and saying this is that, that's that. The veteran Warhammer players' opinions are meaningless. I said this very early in the old world. My opinions on Warhammer are now meaningless. Full reset. You got to become a veteran of the old world to really have an accurate opinion about the old world.
Cool. For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like how it's good or bad. I'm just saying like if it's one of those rules where or not rules. It's one of those like gameplay styles where if it works, you're kind of gonna you're gonna have a really good game, you know, right? Like, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I'm following you. I
works,
get you.
You're gonna walk over your opponent, and then if they have no idea what's going on and they fall for it, they're not gonna have a great time. And you don't want to do that to people who are literally it's their first game or second game or whatever, you know.
Yeah, learn the game in stages. I talked about this before. It's first I'm trying to figure out how to move properly, how to reform properly. What's the best way to shoot? Why am I shooting? Just focus on one thing at a time. So I make my lists. Well, I have been not so much anymore, but very skewed one direction. I've been playing pure Cav lists, pure Cav, just so I can work on Cav. And Luca jokes about he did it in the last stream where it wasn't last stream. Well, we did a handheld game for mini wargaming where his chariot died. He makes this joke I don't understand how Steve makes these chariots work every time. They do nothing for me. And he was just joking around. And I'm like, yeah, because I keep using them over and over and over again. You got to do it wrong 100 times to learn how to do it right all the time. It took me 8th edition. People would send me emails all the time please stop bringing Great Eagles in your Hiles. You don't know how to do it right. And I'm like, yeah, they were right. I had to do it wrong over and over and over again to really understand how the Great Eagle, what it did for me and how to make it do good things for the way I want to play. And then once I understood that, people were like, please stop bringing the Great Eagles, let your opponent play as well. But you just got to do it wrong. You got there's nothing wrong with losing a game. There's nothing wrong with bad tactics. If you thought a tactic was bad, I have a buddy, I'll talk about it in a second. If you thought your tactic was bad, do it again to see if it's the same outcome. And then again, same outcome? Yeah, it's probably a bad tactic. I have a buddy who, he loses a game, changes the list. Lose a game, changes the list. Lose a game, changes the list. Well, clearly this thing isn't good anymore. I'm going to take this out of the list. And the next game, he needs that piece. It's more often not your pieces, it's the way you're using them. And the only way to use them is to lose. Learn how to use them properly, I think, is to lose. Very few of us can just read a rule, read a stat line, and go, I know exactly what I want to do with this. All the time.
Oh, yeah, and honestly, if you're trying to use the unit the same way every time, you're selling yourself short. Because most units have more than one application, you know?
How do I feel about allied contingents, bringing allied contingents? I think it's fine, because I think, I don't think anybody can really do it, because once you're 25%, if you're 2,000 point list, you have a 500 point allied contingent, and then the next allied contingent has to be up to 125 points, so you have to spend, you have to have a really cheap core unit and a really cheap character to be able to do it. So whatever, go. Allies can bring allies all you want. There's no way anybody can ever write a list where an ally contingent is bringing an ally contingent and it's actually good.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a fluffy thing than I would think.
If you can figure out how to make an ally contingent really good in an ally contingent, I want to know about it. Send me that combo.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. I think the where you could do it is when you're bringing things into an army that's lacking in a specific area. I'm imagining an Empire Knight, or Bretonian Knight allied contingent in a dwarf list, you know, right? Bring a bunch of cav into a dwarf army, you know. But
yeah, okay, so it's pure theory craft. So we're gonna bring cav in a dwarf army.
Yeah.
We have to have a character. We'll probably bring a wizard on a Pegasus, and
Oh,
we're bring a
I
unit
wouldn't
of
even
knights.
bother with that. I would bring a chapter master.
Sure,
With
chapter
all-
master and some knights.
just big unit of knights, and
and
then,
then-
have a cav threat. Yeah.
But all the other synergies of the dwarf army don't really work with that contingent too well. Is it useless? No. Am I worried about it? Also, no. I'd probably spend.
definitely.
I'd probably like. Are they gonna march everything forward? They're gonna sit back and send just the knights forward. Figure out what they're gonna do and then play off of that. So I'd probably go kill the. I'd probably focus on killing the knights with Pure Theory Hammer, get those 500 points, and then save the rest of my army. And then if the rest of his dwarves are all melee, well, he's never gonna get a charge. I'm gonna get the 500 points, killing the knights, win the game, and don't let him fight with his dwarves. Or the rest of his dwarves are all shooting, so it's all dwarf shooting and 500 points of cav. That could be scary. How would I handle that? Because you got to engage the shooting, and then you get countercharged by the cav. Yeah, that could be a thing I'd be worried about.
Yeah, that's where it could come in. Is like, hey, this army doesn't have it. I mean, and here it is added in. I would be thinking like some kind of really good ranged unit you could add into Chaos Warriors, but there are no really good ranged units that could ally with Chaos Warriors at least. So,
It's fun to theorize, though.
yeah.
Well, we'll be bringing more and more allies in because people want to see it. So maybe I'll do a list of dwarf. I'll make sure, like I always every time I do a thing that I'm not certain about the power level of it. I'm like, hey Luca, this thing could be overpowered. I want you to be aware of it. If I'm just in most all comers list, we don't do. When we do our all comers list, we just go ahead and make a list. We'll play the game. Don't tell each other about it. But every time it's like I'm gonna bring, like Luca wants to bring a really good vampire count list. He'll let me know well in advance. I want to try this list out. It's really good. Bring something strong. I'm like, yeah, no problem. But yeah, I'll let him. I would let him know if I were to bring allies. I probably wouldn't like, hey, warning allies today. But if I found a combo in allies that could work to my advantage, or could be really strong, I'll let him know. Hey, today I'm gonna try dwarf gun line. There'll be Empire Cav.
How hard would it be to ally in a bunch of cannons into a Bretonnian list from Empire? Because then you would have the best cannon in the game with the Empire cannon, and the best stone thrower in the game in trebuchets, and then just like...
Yeah. So the thing about that is, I actually think the trebuchet makes the Bretonnians weaker.
Does it really?
Well, here's why. Here's why. The Bretonnia is really good at just doing the full send. I want more Pegasus, more Knights. The rest of the stuff is
back from your full send.
I probably wouldn't ever bring. That this matters. I would probably never bring a trebuchet in a competitive Bretonnian list. I want everything pushing forward. I want the trebuchet being at the back where my opponent can use skirmishers or scouts or anything to go grab those 100 points off of me. Yeah, I'd rather have 100 more points in Knights with the lines. So yeah, I think bringing Empire cannons would actually make your list just weaker. You're better off playing at that point. You're better off playing Empire.
Okay, fine. I'll turn it around. How hard would it be to ally in a Bretonnian allied contingent into an Empire army?
Okay, so let me tell you why I don't like. Let me tell you why I don't like that either. The Bretonnian ally has to bring knights, has to bring peasants.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Every time I try to break this, I'm like, eh.
Actually, though, yeah. Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah. I feel like peasants would fit just fine into an Empire army. It's not like they're worse than the
but now I have crap infantry in my Empire army that aren't immune to panic.
Yeah. Hey, the one unit of knights is sitting next to them, so they're leadership 8. They're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but if you're gonna play, so I think the conversation needs to be about allies here, competitively speaking, because narratively speaking, who cares, right? So a Bretonnian gunline army of trebuchets and peasants, no, this kind of works. No, it would be a better list than that. An Empire gunline army. So you take an Empire. So we're gonna go like, is that gonna be an issue?
No.
You don't think so?
No. What do Empire have that's good in a gun line? Like Bretonnian peasant archers would destroy a Empire gun line.
Outriders,
They outrange them.
Outriders,
They
and
literally outrange them.
Outriders and
Outriders?
cannons. Outriders and
Dude,
cannons.
Outriders are
Better wizard.
That-
Better wizard. Steam tank for like everything that Steam tank does. Yeah, no, you're gonna make. Oh my god! I'll challenge Luca to a gunline list of Empire versus Bretonnia. We'll do that. We'll do that on one of the wacky Wednesdays. Empire's gonna win that all day long.
Bretonnian. We're talking gunline. We're full sending on the range.
Yep.
The Bretonnian peasants have better range. They
Sure.
skirmish. They're mowing down crossbowmen and handgunners, and then if all you're left is like, oh well, I've got a steam tank. It's like, well, eventually the trebuchet will get
Those skirmishers are gonna die to the mass fireballs.
I mean, well, okay, well, Bretonnia can mass fireball too. Like, I don't know, like what it's.
Yeah, but I'm not bringing. I might bring a crossbow squad or whatever, but the gun line for Empire is going to be artillery.
Magic?
Yeah. Magic and artillery, yeah.
Magic and artillery, but I mean, I feel like a trebuchet is better than any artillery piece that the Empire has. Except the only one that could only the cannon would be the one that could argue otherwise. But I mean, trebuchets are really good too. So I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, but I don't know. My money would be on the.
Now, are these gun lines allowed to bring in fighting monsters? Because Bretonnia's going to win that one.
Yeah, one unit of Pegasus Knights wins the entire game, pretty much.
He's the Tomb King chariot that has a rank as a second round of combat. How many supporting attacks do the chariots give? Is it rules as written as 1. Supporting attacks is by model, not by thing. Yeah, we're gonna end it here. And pigeon bombs. Greatest thing in the game.
Release the pigeon.
We're gonna end it here. I've been doing this for 4 hours. I love these conversations. I'll see you guys Wednesday. Actually, no, tomorrow I might be back talking to Blue about the post-tournament stats. So if I'll try to put a warning out if that's happening still. We'll try to come on live tomorrow.
Weekend?
Yeah, it was this weekend.
I'll be interested to see about that because I didn't catch all of it, but last week's your talk with Blue was like really cool.
We might have to move it depending on what time he will be available because I have to leave by about 2 p.m. tomorrow. So I'll figure out when it's going to be. Yeah.
Do me a favor, pin that guy down on the 99+1 because he did not give you a clear answer as to what the point of that was. I'm gonna be honest. I know you were asking him to do it, but like it was.
Blue and I disagree.
It was everything else was great. I love the conversation, but I'm still like, but what does 99+1 do? Because I agree with you. I'm like, what does that even do? I don't see how that helps the game in any way, but whatever.
That's my position. That's my position.
Yeah. Like I said, I was like 100% with you, and I was like, but let's see what he has to say. Yeah.
Hey man, I hope he's right. That's all I say. I hope he's right. Either way, I'll be back in the next couple of days, and then Wednesday for the Wacky Wednesday Goblin versus Goblin stream. See you the next